in the STIHL Timbersports here at the Vogtland Arena in Klingenthal, Germany. Today we will see the best German athletes battling for the top of the podium and also for points in order to qualify for the World Championship coming up in November. This is a very important day for our German athletes, and we are going to have 10 of the best on stage battling in the underhand chop, stock saw, standing block chop, single buck, springboard, and hot saw. And of course, we have the elimination process throughout this entire day, where after the first 3 disciplines, we will go to round 2 and take out 2 athletes, and then go into round 3 where we take out another 2 athletes. So it will come down to good, stable, and solid performances all day long. And there you see Guido Husken and Christoph Lang, who are hosting our German show, and on stage our live MC
zur STIHL Timbersports Deutschen Meisterschaft 2024. Der Pro!
And he's getting our audience fired up on stage.
Hallo
there.
Klingenthal!
And the Klingenthal audience is definitely ready. Somebody's even brought a car horn along attached to a battery so that they can really get the noise going on out there. So we have a good-sized audience here in Klingenthal. It is hot today, though. I will say that. It is very, very warm. Oh, and they're even going to go and try for the wave, and it seems to work. Hey, folks, by the way, if you want to get involved in the conversation, there you see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, hashtag STIHL Timbersports. There's another hashtag that we don't see very often, but it's there, and it's called hashtag KissMyAxe. Don't misunderstand that for something else. It's KissMyAxe. And as Toby gets the audience all ready to go, he's also going to introduce us to some very important individuals that are going to be coming onto the stage shortly. And they will be our judges, as they are very important for us to be able to run the show correctly and properly and fairly on stage here. So, in that sense, we will move on to the introduction of our head judge, Bart Janssen, who will come on stage shortly. Bart Janssen, responsible for producing a lot of the wood blocks that are seen here in the event from BJ Events. So here he comes on the stage now. He's also our head judge and responsible for training many of the judges that are up and coming now, because there are so many events around the world, we just need a lot more judges. All right, the second judge on stage today will be Ruud Meijer. Both these gentlemen coming from the Netherlands, and they will be responsible for what's happening on stage. Speaking of our stage area, it is covered in high-speed cameras looking at all the various aspects of the different block and stand positions in order to be able to show close-up views. And that man right there, Jules Janssen, is responsible for checking and rechecking all those high-speed cameras in order to make sure that all of our data that is coming out to you guys is safe and fair. We also do have some button timers at the front of the event site here on each stand side. 2 people controlling a button to stop the time at each discipline. And they will be double-checked from our competition control center. So, introducing our athletes now coming out onto stage, we first have Nils Müller. Big man, 188 centimeters tall, 120 kilograms, almost 40 years old, and still rocking and rolling out there. Next man coming up is Andreas Auenhammer, and he was nice enough to let me use his single buck many years ago at the German Meisterschaft a few years ago, and showed me how to use it properly, and I still made a complete and utter mess of it. So Andreas Auenhammer coming out now. He also a big man, 41 years young. You never guess he was a day over 40. So next up onto the stage will be Stefan Graf.
Aus Leutershausen in Bayern, Stefan Graf.
Stefan, a proper Bavarian fella. He would say to him in German Bavarian, Servus. Oi, Sisi.
Und absolute Erfahrung in Person darf ich jetzt anmoderieren. Sportholzfäller seit 1994.
He's been around the sport for a long time. Markus
mit dabei aus einer Sportholzfäller-Familie. Aus Widdern in Baden-Württemberg. Markus Dengler.
51 years young. Probably the smallest athlete in the group, but man, He is good. Keep an eye on him today.
Deutsche
He's going to test all of these guys to their limits. Coming up next behind Marcus Dengler is a young man who has just graduated out of the rookies and moved up into the pros last season. Danny Vielwerts. He is definitely the future of German timber sports. He is strong, he is skilled technically and physically, so he's going to be a man to keep a close eye on today. Will he be able to take on the big men who have had a little bit more experience than him? Another man who we've seen come out of the rookies a few years ago and has been steadily climbing the ranks is Marcel Steinkemper. He is a great ambassador for STIHL Timbersports around Germany and around the world, so keep a close eye on him. Very strong, especially in the chopping disciplines. Now coming up onto the stage, a man who has been around for a long time. You would never guess it to look at him, but Stefan Odvarka is one of the most powerful hitters there are with an axe. He's very tall, he's rangy, he's not super heavy, but he's got a power behind his hits that are insane. And coming up now, an absolute legend in the sport here in Germany, Peter Bauer. Everybody who knows anything about STIHL Timbersports in Germany knows about Peter Bauer. He is also a fantastic ambassador. He helps train the new up-and-coming young German athletes, has been instrumental in getting a lot of new kids and young men involved in this sport, and he is legendary. Now coming up onto stage, Thomas Hofbauer, another one of those guys where you look at him and go, what? He swings an axe? Well, he does, and he does it very well. And you can see there at lumberjack_89, that's his handle on Instagram. And if you want to check out the things that he does, definitely check that out. And now, the man that everybody's going to be keeping a close eye on today, four-time German champion. He did hold the hot saw and stock saw world record for a short time, Danny Martin. Ever so slowly, he has moved up the ranks, and then from one day to the next, he was exploding onto the scene. A very strong motor sawyer, but he has been incredibly good as of late with the axe and single saw in his hand. And there you have it, folks. That is our lineup of athletes here for today, and they will be battling all 10 of these guys to try and get into the top spots in order to try and qualify to go to the World Championships in November. Obviously the favorite, Danny Martin, but he has a lot of competition on that stage with him today, and there are a couple of guys that can definitely do damage to his possibilities to get there and take over the top spot. And as we go back to Guido and Christoph in the top there, in the direct sun, I feel bad for them sitting in my cabin here. It's not warm, or it's not cool in here, but where they're standing, it's absolutely boiling. So folks, let's move on to the competition format clip to see how this thing is actually going to work here today. The STIHL Timbersports individual competition. In the first round, all athletes compete in 3 disciplines: the underhand chop, the stock saw, and the standing block chop. The times achieved will be converted into points upon completion of each discipline. In round 1, a difference of 1 point applies in each discipline, thus the fastest athlete receives 12 points and the slowest only 1 point. Any rule infraction will result in a disqualification, and the athlete will receive 0 points for that discipline. At the end of the first round, the athletes with the lowest scores are eliminated. Only 8 athletes make it to the second round. In this second round, the remaining athletes compete in the single buck and the springboard for increased scores. With 2 points difference between placings, the fastest athlete now receives 16 points and the slowest receives 2. The 2 athletes with the lowest total points are eliminated at the end of round 2. Only the top 6 reach the third round. So that's the goal for our folks were on stage, and the athletes that you saw earlier on. The goal is to get into that top 6 in the 3rd round, but they have to make it through 2 grueling rounds first. And I'm sorry, our graphics still in the way there, moving out of the way slowly here as we get back to our live feed. And we will start off the day with the underhand chop, our first discipline, where we're going to learn about the tool and the discipline used in the underhand chop as the guys talk about how hot their equipment and cabling is getting there on the stage, and I feel for them. But let's take a look at the tool and discipline for our first discipline, underhand chop. The STIHL Timbersports individual competition. The axes used in timber sports definitely can't be bought at your local hardware store. Made from special steel, the blade is hand sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes cut through a 32-centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides. All right, there's our start list for the underhand chop, and Andreas Auenhammer will be going up against Stefan Graf to start things off with. Klingenthal is ready. The Falkland Arena is ready. The STIHL Timbersports German Pro Championship 2024 starts with our first discipline here, underhand chop. And again, 3 disciplines in round 1 to get the most amount of points to be among the top 8 moving into round 2. And these 2 gentlemen will start things out for us. The power hitter, Andreas Auenhammer, and the man with some pedigree, Stefan Graf. Both of these guys extremely strong, and you can see there the world record 12:01, the national record 19:44. And right now you can see Andreas Auenhammer is putting a little bit of lube on that axe for those first drivers into the block. And the reason why they do that is because those first hits into the block can be sometimes a little bit sticky. So the idea is to prevent that axe from sticking into the block in that first hit. And so they can get it out and begin their second hit and start chipping those things out.
Ready.
So here we go. First heat is up and ready.
Your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, good start by Andreas Auenhammer and Stefan Graf, both of them getting into it with some nice big chips flying out for both of these guys. Now, the question is now who's going to get over to that other side first? A little bit of a sticky axe there. 2 times now for Andreas Auenhammer, as he is onto the second side before Stefan Graf is. Stefan Graf about 3 strokes behind Andreas Auenhammer on the second side. Andreas has got a very sticky axe there, steps down, has to get back up before he can hit again. And you can see both of these guys working hard. There's that big chip that Andreas wanted to have out of his block. Stefan Graf looking good on the second side of his, and he might even be a little bit faster than Auenhammer here, but no, he doesn't get it, and it's Andreas Auenhammer in 39.16. Stefan Graf, I thought was going to be a bit quicker from the angle that I saw, but he had a little bit more material in the way, and he gets it done in 48.13. And you can see here with a little bit of a shook of the shoulders and a breath in through the teeth that he is not super pleased with that, and neither is Andreas Auenhammer. He's about a second slower than his fastest time, and 8 seconds and change for Stefan Graf difference.
Both guns are good.
But the guys have some times locked in now, and so our competition is now officially underway. And there you see our stage crew We like to call them the pit crew as they come out to get the stage ready, and we'll look back at some of the slow-mo replays here. You can see some nice big chips flying off of both of these blocks for these gentlemen. I believe that Stefan Graf was using a bit of a bigger head on his axe. I couldn't really tell from that angle. And there you see Andreas Auenhammer, really nice accurate drivers there, and you can see when that happens, you get some nice clean chips coming out, and when you can be accurate, you're fast because you're not cutting new wood. A little step down there for Andreas, but didn't cause any problems. But right there, that's where the problem came with stepping down. He had to really work to get that axe out of it. It almost looked like he was going to break the handle as it was so stuck in there, and that's one of those situations you have to really watch out for. If it gets stuck in there, wrenching and wrestling it out is tiring and causes a lot of time delay. Now look at that. Lickety split, the stage is ready for our next heat in our hand, and that's Markus Dengler going up against Thomas Hofbauer. A couple of guys that I would say are pretty evenly matched up. Tail of the tape gives the advantage to the rangy Hofbauer, who at 1.85 meters tall is considerably taller than Stefan Graf, Markus Dengler. Stefan Graf was in the previous heat. So last minute preparations here. Now, as you saw with Andreas earlier on, he put on a lube on his axe. Some of these other guys opt not to bother with it. They feel like their axe choice is going to be doing the work for them. It looks like here Markus Dengler is, or Thomas Hofbauer, is using a wedge.
Athletes ready.
Or a chisel
Stand
axe.
to your timber.
Let's see, there we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Both getting into it pretty quickly. Thomas Hofbauer quick with the axe, and he's got a pretty good pace going there. Markus Dengler also very quick, and he's got really accurate drivers. You can see barely stepping at all on that block. Nice and clean. On the other side by Hofbauer, it's a little bit more steppy, but he's going with a little bit more incidents to get through there as quick as possible. He's about 2 strokes ahead of Dengler on the second side. Nice big chip coming out for Hofbauer. Dengler's got one hanging in the way, and Dengler gets through there now as well. And you can see he's got a chocolate side, and that's his left side where it's a little bit smoother than on the right side. So Hofbauer right now looking like he might be getting close to getting through there. Dengler looking also very good on the second side, and Hofbauer does it in 48.73. Dengler still trying to find that line through with a narrower cut on the second side. It's not quite as open, and he's got it done in 57.94. So Thomas Hofbauer with the 3rd fastest time, Markus Dengler with the 4th fastest time. Andreas Auenhammer has set the speed of the day with a 38.91 time in the underhand chop. So that is the time to beat for the moment.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations, both girls are good.
So Bart Janssen, our head judge, has given us the thumbs up now 2 times for 2 heats, which is good. No disqualifications, and something that could get you disqualified is jumping the gun or an early start. Another thing that's more likely to happen with these guys is a cut foothold. So we have to really watch out, and that's what you see there, that little extra piece of wood there where the lines are, where the guys are standing on, that cannot be cut into. If you cut into that piece of wood, that counts as a disqualification because it's a safety aspect. But, you know, these guys are so good, so accurate with their hits that that seldom happens. But it can happen. It does happen. But with the pros, it's not very often. And you can see there that really nice final cut from Thomas Hofbauer and Markus Dengler not that far behind. A little bit of a more close cut on that second side, but it worked for him, and he is down and through. So stage is set for our next heat coming up, and that is heat number 3 with the legend Peter Bauer going up against Stefan Odvarka. All right, so there we see Peter Bauer on the left-hand side going up against Stefan Odwarka. I mentioned both of these guys, excellent axemen. Peter Bauer has so much history and so much experience and been around. He's still considered legendary in the sport. Look for him to do really well here. Tail of the tape, definitely advantage Peter Bauer. But I'll tell you what, Stefan Odwarka will surprise you with the frequency of his hits. Let's see if he can bring that to pace here and really test Peter Bauer in this heat.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Peter Bauer opting for the quicker hits this time around. Stefan Odwarka going for it now. Is picking up the pace a little bit as both of these guys start to really make work on that first side. Who's going to go over to that second side first? It looks like it might be Peter Bauer. Yes, it is. It's going to be Peter Bauer slipping to that second side before Stefan Odwarka. Left-hand side of your stage, and that view right there is Peter Bauer's feet on his block. Stefan Odwarka now on the second side of his block, about 5 or 6 strokes behind Odwarka. And looking good for both of these gentlemen. Peter Bauer, though, just a hair ahead of Odwarka. Remember, we're not eliminating here. We're only looking for the fastest time possible. And Peter Bauer's through in 41.28. That puts him in second place currently. And Odwarka knew he had it close, and he does it in 46.28. And that puts him in third place. So good standing for those two gentlemen at the moment in second and third, respectively. And a good race between those two guys, really pushing each other in that heat.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both guns are good.
So we'll go back and take a look at the highlights here from this heat between a couple of really excellent axemen. And you can see they get pretty well into it with pace with each other, keeping pace with each other. But Peter Bauer started with 3-4 really quick hits. Stefan Odwarka, I was a little bit surprised that his pace started slower, but his pace definitely picked up the longer he started chopping, and that is testament to fitness right there. On the second side, the power and accuracy of Peter Bauer just played such a huge role here. He's not as tall as Odwarka, but boy, can he really place that axe. And you could see the skill level of these guys as they got smooth sides. A little bit of a sticky wicket there for Peter Bauer, but then he managed just to push it through. And those are some clean cuts for him. And clean is fast. And that is a good thing when you're on these blocks. Stefan Odwarka also finishing up nice and clean. And we move on to our next heat. Heat number 4 with Nils Müller going up against Denny Fielwert. And as I said earlier during the introductions, Denny Fielwert came out of the rookies just recently and has been making a name for himself among the pros. He has got power, he's got style, and he is definitely one to keep an eye on for the future in German timber sports. And I think maybe this might be an interesting coming out for Denny Fielwert as he is going up against some excellent competition, and he knows it, but you know his preparation has been on point. So let's see how he does here against Nils Müller.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good start by both of these guys. Denny Fielwert getting into it. Nils Müller with pace. Wow, look at the pace that Nils Müller is going at it. Taking a book out of the Australian playbook as he really gets that axe moving. A lot of drivers, really quick, and he moves over to the second side. About 4 or 5 drivers ahead of Denny Fielwert. Denny Fielwert on the second side now, doing his best to keep up with Nils Müller. Nils Müller has a distinct advantage being earlier onto the second side. Excuse me, Denny Fielwert looking good though. Oh! Holy smokes, folks! How close was that finish? 32.72 to 32.83. What a great heat between these two guys, and Denny Fielwert did a great job to keep pace with Nils Müller on that second side there, even though Nils Müller had the advantage about 4 or 5 strokes on side 2. Fantastic finish, and we love to see that excitement. Amazing.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both guns are good.
Official times 32.45 for Müller, 32.55 for Fielwert. Just 0.1 of a second slower, so that was a real tight one, and both of those guys go to the top 2 positions in the underhand chop. Nils Müller, fastest of the day so far. Denny Fielgert, second fastest, and you can see in Nils Müller, he really got going. I mean, the frequency of his drivers into that block was quick. Denny Fielgert, not quite so frequent, but his drivers were super accurate. You could see there, his sides are smooth as butter, and then you can see Nils Müller switching over to the second side of his block as quickly as possible. Nice open face on the second side. That was, oh, it doesn't get much closer than that, folks. I mean, really, you need photo finish for that, absolutely. Great job by these 2 athletes, and a really nice way to get them in the gas and on that gas pedal with just one more heat to go here. And that's going to be Marcel Steinkemper and Danny Martin, who are both, by the way, excellent axemen. Check out those times. Whew, that is blisteringly fast. Marcel Steinkemper, Danny Martin, pretty close to the size. Age difference, though, could that be a factor? Maybe. Personal best for Marcel, 22.61. Danny Martin, 20.36. So we're looking at a couple of guys that have trained frequently together. They're also both Team German members. So when you see them coming out on stage for the Team World Championships, you know that those 2 are going to be perennial members of that team. Here we go.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Like Denny Fielgert, is Marcel Steinkemper going to have one of those years this year? Boy, I tell you what, he's looking pretty good here. He's got pace going. Both of these guys are hitting quickly, but I think Marcel Steinkemper is going 1.5 blows for every one of Danny Martin's. Onto the second side, about a half drive ahead is Marcel Steinkemper. Danny Martin hasn't quite chipped out yet. Marcel Steinkemper has the advantage here. Looks like he's going to get it. Oh, 23 even for Steinkemper. Danny Martin, a tough second side on his block. A big wide open face trying to keep up with Marcel Steinkemper, and his time is running away on him, and he's got it in 32.99. He is not going to be happy with that. And Marcel Steinkemper with an absolutely blistering pace at the start. 12 points go to him in this one, and a time of 23, which I think will be reduced down a little bit. Yes, in fact, it is. His official time will be 22.77. So what a way to finish up our underhand chop with an absolute blistering run from Marcel Steinkemper, and 22.77. He wins the underhand chop and gets his first set of points.
Congratulations. Both guys are good.
Wow, what a start by Marcel. Danny Martin, unexpected, a little bit slower than usual. He was 10 seconds and change off his normal pace, but I tell you what, Marcel Steinkemper, look at the speed. Even in slow-mo, it's quick. You could see 1.5 drivers for every single driver of Danny Martin's. These 2 guys are absolute warriors, though. You know Danny Martin's not going to let that rest. He's going to be back with a vengeance in the next discipline, the stock saw, and Danny Martin is so good with the motor saw in hand, and you know he's probably going to be on top of that discipline unless something untoward happens. But what a heat there by Marcel Steinkemper, just killing that block. A nice split, steps down, and a good time. And there's that celebration as expected. Good job, Marcel. Congratulations on taking this one down. So there we see the underhand chop results. Steinkemper on top, as mentioned. Nils Müller in second place. Denny Fielgert in third place. And that will also be the total for the overall standings right now. And you could see the points line up there as well, how that works. So that is our start. And wow, what an exciting start it has been as we get ready to move on to our next discipline, the stock saw, back up in studio with our 2 German commentators. And you can already see they're starting to suffer the heat there, as it is not cool here today in Klingenthal in the Vogt Arena. It is quite well above the 30-degree mark, and with the sun shining down on you directly, it is not easy to deal with all of the stuff that has to be happening out there on stage. So I sympathize with these guys. I've been there before, so I know what it's all about. All right, so the next discipline coming up is our stock saw with the MS661. So let's check out the tool and discipline for stock saw.
The STIHL MS661CM stock saw is used in STIHL Timbersports as the ultimate test of operator skill. Designed for the toughest jobs in forestry, it produces approximately 7.3 horsepower, has a displacement of 91.1 cc, and weighs 7.4 kilograms. To ensure evenly and fairly matched saws, professional STIHL technicians prepare and test the saws before each competition. Stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark. 1 downward and 1 upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks.
Okay, stock saw coming up, and as I mentioned, Danny Martin is an absolute killer when it comes to the sawing disciplines with a motor saw. So this is an opportunity for him to come back from a little bit of a slower time in the underhand chop. We'll start things off, though, with Stefan Odvarka and Stefan Graf. So our guys are on stage down there. They'll receive the stock saws. One thing that you heard in the introduction of this discipline is these saws are the same saws that you'll get off of the shelf in any STIHL dealership around the world. There's nothing, any changes made to the chain, the bar, or the motor. No adaptations. So this is a test of operator skill and also of the operator's knowledge of the equipment. So it's not necessarily about how hard or how strong you push that saw into the block. It's about realizing what the saw is doing in your hand, listening to the sound it makes, feeling the vibration to see if it's bogging out, if the chain seems to be slowing down. The best guys in the world aren't pushing hard, they're just pushing efficiently. So here we go. Heat number 1 in stock saw, Odvarka against Graf. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, look at that beautiful thin cookie from Odvarka. Oh, the transition was massive. He overcompensated, though. Graf looking good on his second cookie, but we have maybe a cut line by Stefan Odvarka. Both of their times were very close, but that second cookie was massive by Stefan Odvarka. He overcompensated on the transition to the upcut. Meanwhile, Stefan Graf looked like he had a really nice cut. Let's see if these guys both manage to get this locked down and get their points. I kind of have a feeling that we have a cut line. We might even have 2 cut lines. Stefan Odvarka is going, yeah, it was just a mini little bit. So maybe he's got it, maybe not. Let's see.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, stand 2, DQ, cut over the line. However, stand 1, it's good.
Okay, so we do have a DQ for Stefan Graf, surprisingly. I thought for sure that Stefan Odvarka had cut the line with that massive second cookie. His first cookie was beautiful and thin. I mean, it was paper thin, but that second cookie was massive. Let's take a look at this again. So really nice start by both of these guys, and you can see here, that's a fairly sizable first cookie from Graf. There's that first cookie from Odvarka, and here, the transition. He did a little tab with his knee and just overcompensated on the transition. And there's the cut line from Graf. Unfortunate. Okay, so we've had our first DQ of the day, and that is Stefan Graf for cutting the line. And as I said, I thought for sure it was Odvarka with that massive second Grandma's chocolate chip cookie. Next heat coming up, heat number 2 with Denny Fielwert and Niels Müller going against each other. And we saw these two guys battle each other in the underhand chop, and now they'll do the same thing in the stock saw. Again, It's not elimination. It's about trying to get the fastest time possible in order to gain points for getting into the next round. You see them using the grease pencil or the grease marker on that block in order to line up their cut points when they're going to make the initial cut and then they're going to make the upcut. Looks like both of you guys, or at least Niels Müller has requested that the block be straightened out. Can't happen sometimes that the previous contestant's block cut is a little bit on an angle. May not be much, but sometimes what happens there is the athlete will say, nah, I don't like it that way, please straighten it out. And it looks like they're going to do the very same thing here on the block for Denny Fielwert. So those 10 centimeters will be remarked up by Bart Janssen. You can see the new blue line being set there by him. You'll also notice that the athletes have those foam rubber pads on the ground. Now, a few years ago, those pads didn't exist, and the athletes had to put the saw on the ground in front of their location. It's a hot start, so the saw is running, but without the pad on the floor, the saw is used to walk away on them. So they had to keep their hand on the saw until the very last second at the start. Now, with these pads, their foot can be used to hold the pad in place, which holds the saw in place. Quick warm-up. And getting the saws down onto the deck and ready to go. Last minute positions, quick checks.
Athletes ready.
And here we go for heat number 2.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, Niels Müller with a really quick pickup and start. Denny Fielwert. What's this transition looking like for Denny? Oh, that's a good transition for Denny as well. Niels Müller is going to be quick through this one, but it's close again between these two. Fielwert 12:08 and Müller 11:79. Again, very, very, very close heat between these two athletes. Fantastic runs by both of them. And Niels Müller right now sitting in second place with the second fastest time. Denny Fielwert in third with an 11:99. That puts Niels Müller on top of the overall for the moment.
Congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So good job by these two guys to keep in the mix. Stefano Dwarka still on top of the 10.64. Niels Müller, Denny Fielwert in second and third places in stock saw. And we could see Niels with a fantastic pickup and cut. Seems really relaxed about it. Denny Fielwert a little bit more in the aggressive stance, and he steps into the upcut just before he finishes that down cut and the transition. That was a beautiful transition right there from Dwarka. Excuse me, from Niels Müller. And that upcut was absolutely fantastic from him. Beautifully done. Okay, so a couple of guys here that could use some points, especially for Marcel Steinkemper, who had such a beautiful underhand chop. Will he be quick in this cut? He's got a 9.93 personal best, which is not that far off the national record. Andreas Auenhammer, his opponent in this one, personal best of 10.30. So both of these times could very well get the guys up to the top of the list. The question is, can they manage it? Right now, overall standings looks like Niels Müller and Denny Fielwert are holding 1 and 2. Will Marcel Steinkemper be able to get right back up on top there with a good run in this heat? Let's see. Beautiful location here in the Vogtland Arena, where in the wintertime we see a lot of ski jumping. This is the Bundesstützpunkt for ski jumping as well, so you know that the best in the world or the best in Germany are coming here to train, and why not? The infrastructure is beautiful here. So Marcel setting things up there. Andreas on the other side. Also, two of the nicest guys in timber sports. Absolute gentlemen. And as I said, Marcel is an amazing ambassador for the sport. Young, outgoing, friendly, works well for everybody. to figure out this top 5 guys by the time we get to the second round. It's insane how close they are with each other.
Congratulations. Both cuts are good.
It's amazing action out on stage so far. Andreas Auenhammer 11.60 after adjustment. Steinkemper with an 11.34 puts them in second and third places there. So Stefano Dwarka still the top guy. Marcel Steinkemper in second. Andreas Auenhammer in third place as the little last checks and final adjustments on the blocks happen before our next heat coming out, and that's going to be between Markus Dengler and Peter Bauer. Markus Dengler achieved a personal best at the German Pro Championships last year in Stocksaw with a 10.32. Let's see if he can pull that off again. Peter Bauer, I mean, the guy is just stable as all get out. 9.30 at the German Ford Ranger Cup in 22. So it's been a while since he's had a personal best rocked up. So let's see if maybe he can pull that one out of the sock today. Marcel Steinkemper, by the way, moves to the top of the overall rankings after he cut just now in Stocksaw, but there are still 2 more heats to go, heat 4 and 5. This heat 4 coming up with Dengler and Bauer.
Okay, gentlemen. Warm up your saw. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good even start by both of these guys. Markus Dengler with a bit of a fat cookie. His transition needs to be on point. Oh yeah, that's a nice transition and a good cookie from Peter Bauer. That first one was thin. Peter Bauer 11.21. Markus Dengler 11.40. Peter Bauer moves into second place. Markus Dengler into fourth. So Peter Bauer has pushed Steinkemper. Oh, wait a minute. No, there's been an adjustment here as a quick check by our competition control center has moved Markus Dengler into third, pushing Steinkemper down into fourth place.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both guns are good.
And look at Dengler's cookies. They're almost exactly alike. Wow, that's some accuracy right there from Markus Dengler. Great job. And Peter Bauer, of course, a quick cut with an 11.11 time, puts him in second place. But look how evenly matched up these guys were with the start of their cuts. A little bit different styles as far as cutting. You can see here Peter Bauer opting to tip down and not run the motor down with. And here, Dengler, motor with. And look at that, the cookie transition, absolutely flawless. And bang, right at the end there, Peter Bauer just a hair faster. But the accuracy of Markus Dengler, whew, that was money. Look at that, 2 cookies, almost exactly the same thickness. That's fantastic. Okay, the last heat here, Danny Martin, Thomas Hofbauer. Danny Martin holds the national record at 8.63. And like I mentioned before, this is his discipline. He knows exactly what to do with this saw in hand. So here is his opportunity to get himself from 5th place up into among the top 3, I think probably even in, I would say, 2nd place with a full pull of points here.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saw.
And in fact, if he can get 12 points out of this one, he'll have 20 points in total, and he will move just behind Marcel Steinkemper in this discipline. So he's still in attack position. He's no stranger to being here. He's been here before. He knows what he needs to do to get there. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good pickup. Danny Martin, as usual, solid, but oh, Thomas Hofbauer looking very good. He's kind of pushing hard on that upcut. Thomas Hoffbauer with an 11.33. Danny Martin with an 11.75. Oh my goodness. Danny Martin has an 11.75. That puts him in 8th place in stock saw. That was surprisingly slow cut for Danny Martin. Thomas Hoffbauer, however, has moved into 3rd place. Let's see what the adjustments will say here.
Gentlemen, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So Danny Martin in 6th place in stock saw after adjustment. Thomas Hoffbauer slips into 3rd place with 11.17. And that means Danny Martin is in 5th place in the overall standings, but Marcel Steinkemper holds on to that top spot. We'll take a look at the overall standings shortly here. But look at this. Both of these guys had a really nice start on the cut. Thomas Hoffbauer might have just been a hair quicker, and maybe Danny was feeling the pressure, pushed a little bit too hard on the saw. And on the upcut, yep, there's Hoffbauer's final cut. Both of Hoffbauer's cookies really, really nice and thin, and that's the key, is just to have thin cuts because it doesn't drag on the saw as much. Okay, stock saw results here. Stefan Odwarka with the top and 12 points go to him. Peter Bauer, then Thomas Hoffbauer, Markus Dengler, and Marcel Steinkemper. Let's take a look at what that does to the overall standings here. And that's going to put Marcel Steinkemper in the top spot when we do see our overall standings. So we'll see how it shifts around a little bit. There you go. Peter Bauer in 2nd place. He's in good condition, as well as Danny Martin in 5th place. He's not out of this thing yet, so he's only 4 points behind at the moment, with an opportunity to get back into it and the standing block chop. And as long as he's among the top 8 moving into the next round, he can score even more points in single buck and springboard. So he still has all to play for here, and at the moment, Steinkemper at the top of the rankings. He'll definitely want to hold on to that. Denny Fuvert currently sitting in 7th place, so he's close to being on the bubble. So he needs a real solid run in our next discipline, which is the standing block chop. All right, and our cameraman likes to keep a quick look at Christoph Lang's feet and his axe and chainmail socks that he shows off to the audience in our German show, as we're taking a look at our standing block chop discipline.
At the standing block chop, the felling of a tree with an axe is simulated. A vertically positioned wooden block with a diameter of 30 centimeters has to be cut through both sides. A powerful and precise swing with the axe is the premise of a good result.
So we are motoring through these first 2 disciplines, and ladies and gentlemen, this 3rd discipline in round 1 is the tell discipline for these guys. We need to see some very, very good points, especially in the bottom couple of guys. So we're only going to take 8 athletes after this round into the next round. So that means our athletes have to have good cuts here. And right now, Markus Dengler and Stefan Graf are suffering a little bit at the bottom of the list in positions 9 and 10. So here is an opportunity for them to move up. Our first heat will be, however, Andreas Auenhammer going up against Nils Müller. So as you saw from the tool and discipline there, the standing block chop simulates the felling of a tree, and you could see the 2 stands at the front of the arena here. The guys will have to cut through from both sides. That means cutting through on the first side, determining whether they're deep enough for their first cut, and then moving to the second side. It's going to be about who can get clean through that first side and transition to the second side and keep that pace up on the second side in order to try and cut through quick. Again, and I keep reminding everybody, this is not elimination, but this is an elimination discipline for the round. So we will lose 2 of our 10 athletes here after this round. It just depends on who's got the time and the pace here in this one to really move up, and who maybe loses a little bit here moving on to the second round. Let's see. So both Niels and Andreas are using that lube on their axes for that first driver. You can see it gleaning there, in some cases dripping off a little bit. And as I mentioned earlier, on the other hand, some of the other guys aren't using it as much.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So drivers always from the bottom first and then to the top. And right away you could see Nils Müller Going in a couple of straight lines to try and chip out there. Got to be careful with those straight shots, so you're not really cutting clean. Meanwhile, Andreas Auenhammer's got a lot of material away there. It looks like one more here, and he's going to move to the other side. And Niels Müller is about 2 strokes back of Auenhammer as he moves over to the second side of his block. Our cameraman running to find purchase and space there. A quick cleanup by Auenhammer, and he is on that second side and looking very good as he twists out some of the wood that's stuck in there. He wants those chips gone. Niels Müller looking like he's going to get that one quick. Ooh, the final power driver for Niels Müller, 41-47. Auenhammer, one more should do it, maybe 2. He's got a bit of a sticky one there. He didn't go deep enough on that first side and does it now in 51-62. So it took 3 extra drivers than what I think he thought was going to do it for him. So Niels Müller with the time here, 41-47, and Auenhammer with a 51-36. Ooh, quick adjustment there, 41-13 for Niels Müller, and he seems pretty okay with that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both guns are good.
So everybody's chopping at around the same pace. Means that the wood is as fair as it's going to get, and I don't think there's anything that these guys have to complain about with the wood preparation. It's all very fair the way it's made and prepared and stored and then brought to competition so that everybody has the same conditions. Of course, it's a natural product, so every once in a while, you know, you're going to find a knot in there. We've seen in the rookie competition or the newcomer competition from earlier on today, there were some dark spots in the wood, but, you know, that's not the end of the world. It does happen from time to time, and the guys have to all deal with that on occasion, and that's just the way it goes with a product that is grown in nature. There's that last driver, and a bit of a disappointed look from Andreas, but you know, he's going to have to go with it, and hopefully he's up high enough in the standings to be able to hold on to one of those top 8 positions. All right, Stefan Graf going up against Stefan Odvarka. 2 Stefans on stage again, bookmarking each other on this one here in the standing block chop. Stefan Graf currently in 10th place with a DQ in stock saw, unfortunately, so he absolutely needs a solid cut in standing in order to be able to move up. Stefan Odvarka, he's kind of safe in the middle of the pack here in 5th place, so he basically just needs a clean cut in order to get enough points to keep him among the top 8 moving on to the next round. The Falkland Arena is completely full here, and the people braving the sunshine and heat in order to come and watch their favorite athletes competing here in the German Men's Pro Championship. Tomorrow we will have the International Women's Cup, so make sure you do join us for that. Some of the best women from around the world, including the USA, Canada, England, and Australia and New Zealand, are here to compete and try and take top honors.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start. Both of the guys getting a bit sticky. Both of the guys in sync with each other on this one. It's almost like they're roommates. Stefan Odvarka looking good here on that first side. Wide open face there as he gets some nice accurate hits trying to chip out some of that material that's hanging there. He wants that gone. He's not going to worry about it. He's moving to the second side well quick and about 3 strokes ahead of Stefan Graf, who has now moved over to his second side. It's a bit of a foggy camera right there, but that's okay. We can still see the intensity on Stefan Graf's face as he is working that block. Stefan Odvarka looking like he might be close to getting through there. 1 or 2 more drivers should do it. Oh, he's got it. He's got it in 40-31. Good time for Stefan Odvarka. That puts him atop the standing block rankings for the moment. And Stefan Graf, a 47.72. That moves him into 3rd place here. Might be some changes as the times are adjusted once our competition control center adjusts them. So let's see what that turns out to be. But Stefan Odvarka, 40.08 and 1st place in standing
okay,
block.
Gentlemen,
good job.
Congratulations. Both guns are good.
So we are cooking right now, literally in the heat. It's crazy. Good start by both these guys. Look at this. How much more in sync could you be? It's only until that point where the boy band aspect got rid of it and they just started moving at their own pace. Here you can see Stefan Graf a quick look over to make sure that he's not stepping on any of the chips on the ground, and also just to have a quick peek at where Stefan Odwarka is. And he just kept working on his own block. You kind of don't have to or shouldn't think about what the other guy is doing. You just have to do your job. And here, that last driver by Stefan Odwarka, fantastic there. So he's got himself the top position in the standing block chop. Stefan Graf got a bit of work from the others that he hopes aren't going to push him too far down. But right now, he is really on the bubble. That DQ in stock saw cost him a lot. He is currently sitting in 7th place with 3 heats to go. Heat number 3, by the way, Thomas Hofbauer against Markus Dengler. A little wink from Dengler as he comes out onto stage. Does he know something that we don't? Is this his discipline? Thomas Hofbauer getting ready. You can see this is the new type of athlete, we'll call it, in timber sports. You've got the big boys that are still in the mix. They're powerful. They've got endurance. But what you're seeing is a lot more rangy, tall, very wiry athletes with power that you wouldn't expect would be there. But it is insane, the skill level these guys all have. And we saw that earlier
ready.
in stock shot and in
to
underhand
your
chop.
timber.
There. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Thomas Hofbauer, 2 really beautiful first hits from down low. We should have some nice chips flying from that any second now. There's one hanging as he tries to do some house cleaning as well. Markus Dengler, 2, a little bit of stuff getting in the way. You want to get those chips flying out. Hofbauer onto the second side. He left a lot still in that first side, but it's pretty loose, so I think he might be okay. Dengler still on his first side, trying to get a little bit more out of that, and then moving over to his second side, but he's about 10 drivers behind Hofbauer here on that second side. Hofbauer is not too far away from it, finishing off his block. 1 or 2 more should do it. There it goes in 38.54, fastest time of the day, and Hofbauer takes the top spot. Dengler still working on side number 2, and he's just getting close to that 50-second mark, so he is going to, at the moment, get it through there. And let's see where that time's going. He's still got a bit to go here. Getting close to a minute, in fact. That's crazy. That time for Markus Dengler is unusual. So 103.91, staying pretty consistent, actually. But his personal best, 34.47. That was a really long run for Markus Dengler. Maybe axe choice today, I don't know.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both guns are good.
All right, so 25.42 seconds off pace for Markus Dengler. Thomas Hofbauer, however, takes the top spot in standing for the moment with a 38.33. I really wonder what happened there with Markus. I would love to hear from him and to know if it was, you know, something in the block, if the axe choice wasn't what he expected on the block. They do have test blocks that they run earlier on from the same stands, but you know, like I said earlier, it's a natural product and you just never know. And here we can see the last couple of drivers from Thomas. Yes, that was a nice one. He wanted that one out in left field. Oh, and he didn't seem too pleased with that either. All right, coming up, a couple of the young bucks going up against each other, Marcel Steinkemper and Denny Vielwert. Both of them having really nice times under 30 seconds. Steinkemper with 23.28 and Denny Vielwert with a 25.51. And as we saw with the underhand chop, Steinkemper is cutting really well with the axe today. Could he be our axe man of the day at the end of proceedings? We'll find out. Denny Vielwert, though, is no slouch on the underhand chop. He has got this thing on lockdown, and between these two, it could be some really interesting battles right now today and in the near future. Steinkemper setting up on his block, and look for him to really try and open it up here as quickly as possible.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, sticky one for Steinkemper right off the bat, giving Fjellvedt a bit of an advantage there, but Fjellvedt also got a sticky one on the top. Here we can see a bit of the difference, though, in the accuracy. Fjellvedt doesn't have much accuracy. He's going for all power. Steinkemper about 2.5 strokes ahead of Fjellvedt on that second side. Steinkemper, on the other hand, does have pretty solid accuracy, and it looks like he's not going to be too long before he is through that block. And there he is, 26.63, fastest time of the day for Steinkemper. And Denny Fjellvedt looking for that one final driver to get through there. He left a little bit too much on that first side before he switched over to the second side. I think he thought about too much keeping with Steinkemper, and Fjellvedt's done it in 41.68. And yeah, he's not going to be happy with that. He's done it much faster in the past there. 26.63 for Steinkemper, though. That puts him atop the leaderboard in a standing block as well as in the overall. But Peter Bauer and Denny Martin are still to come. Denny Fjellvedt's disappeared to go and get
Ladies and
his
gentlemen,
X's.
congratulations. Both guns are good.
I'm a little bit surprised. It almost looks like maybe Denny Fjellvedt is feeling the effects of the heat more than the other guys are, because he's definitely better than that. I've seen him cut this discipline so dastardly in the past. Yeah, I'm curious. And again, it could be axe choice. It could be luck of the block, which is literally luck of the draw. These guys aren't given these blocks. They choose them by draw. And you can see here on this first side, he didn't really look over at Marcel, but we saw Marcel move over to that second side about 2 strokes ahead of Denny, and I think maybe Denny saw that out of the corner of his eye and just tried to keep pace with Marcel, but left too much on the first side. I don't know. That final driver, though, beauty and clean, but through, and you could see big chip out of his axe there. So something was going on in that block for sure. Okay, last heat here in standing block chop, and then we are going to whittle this crew down to 8 athletes moving to round 2. Peter Bauer and Denny Martin looking for solid cuts here today. As we saw in the underhand chop, Denny Martin not feeling the axe so much. Oh, so maybe that's going to change on standing. You know, he's a real good axeman, and standing he's definitely better than on underhand, in my opinion. He might disagree with me on that one, but I've seen him absolutely rip the standing to bits. So let's see how he does here against Peter Bauer. You can see the routine and everything from Peter Bauer. Exactly where he places his backup axe opens up the protective sheath, so that is ready just to pull out without having to unwrap it or anything like that. Denny Martin, same but different. His axe is right there next to his stand, so he doesn't have to go away from the axe stand at all. A little bit of nervousness here for Denny Martin.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Looking good for both of these guys as they get right into it. Nice chips flying for Denny Martin and for Peter Bauer, finally getting a couple of pieces out there. Denny Martin looking a bit steppy here as he's all power as he moves over to the second side. Peter Bauer right there with him, about 3-4 strokes behind, in fact. Denny Martin on that first side, passing the 23-second mark. Will he be able to get through there? It's not going to be as fast as Steinkemper. Oh, and he's got that one little hold. 29.56 for Denny Martin. And Peter Bauer looking for a couple of final drivers there, and he does it in 36.50. So, wow, Peter Bauer in third place, Denny Martin in second place, and Marcel Steinkemper finishing off standing block there at the top of the rankings. So Steinkemper opens up his lead even a little bit more. Peter Bauer sitting in second place and Denny Martin in third place. So he is in striking distance, and that means we're going to lose 2 athletes from the bottom, and that's going to be Marcus Stengler and Stefan Graf. But we're going to see our overall standings in just a minute here as round 1 has just finished.
Congratulations, both guns are good.
All right. I don't know, is Denny Martin playing possum here a little bit? Hard to say. We know he definitely can cut better than we've seen him cut here on the chopping disciplines and on the sawing discipline in stock saw. So interesting situation here for Denny Martin. He's not really under a lot of pressure, but you know, he could probably feel it on the back of his neck a little bit that Marcel Steinkemper is doing his best to try and take out Denny Martin. He wants to have that trophy. And let's not forget Peter Bauer, legendary athlete, who is right there in the mix as well. And here we go, this one last driver here, watch it, it gets hooked up, and then he's got to go back in and cut through. That kills time sometimes so much, it's insane. And you can see the shake of Denny Martin's head. He is not happy with that, and that last couple of drivers from Peter Bauer as well. And even with that, 36-27, Peter Bauer is sitting in third place there in standing block with Denny Martin in second and Marcel Steinkemper in first. Thomas Hofbauer and Stefano Dwarka rounding out the top 5 respectively here for standing block. And that means in our overall standings, not a lot of changes at the top. Let's take a look how that changes things here. So Steinkemper in the lead still with 32 points. Peter Bauer 4 points back at 28, and Denny Martin 5 points back at 27, and Stefano Dwarka 6 points back at 26 is still in the mix along with Nils Müller. So those top 5 guys still have an opportunity to get up there as we now take a look at what our round 2 is going to look like, and we will lose, unfortunately, at the bottom of the list, positions 9 and 10, Markus Dengler and Stefan Graf, as we now move on to round 2 and our single buck, which is the next discipline coming up. So as you saw on stage, the action was fast and furious. The guys working real hard to make sure that they were on point with everything that was happening down there to try and gain as many points as possible. Marcel Steinkemper has put himself into the perfect position to maintain with a win in the underhand chop and the win in the standing block and a third place in, or fourth place in the stock saw. It's a real good, solid position for him to be in. Peter Bauer also right there in the mix. Denny Martin, he's been here before. He knows what he needs to do. He's been working on the next two disciplines extremely hard. We've seen him do well in the springboard as well as the single buck. So we are going to go on to our next discipline now, which is the single buck. Let's introduce you to the misery whip right now.
The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into 2 types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos and its base price starts at around 1,500 euros. Single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc of a 46-centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success.
All right, so here we go. Single buck, we are down to 8 remaining athletes in round 2. 2 disciplines remaining in round 2 to get down to our 6, and Andreas Auenhammer will go up against Denny Fielwert in the single buck. Now, Auenhammer, he's a magician with the single buck. Let's see if he can magic his way to a real good set of points here, because Andreas is in 8th position. And so he can really work this to get up to higher up in the rankings here and perhaps get himself among the top 5. So he's got himself a safe line to the top 6. Denny Fielwert, both of these guys, excellent times on single buck. All right. So again, this is single buck without assistant. They can have somebody carry this out for them, but they're not allowed to have anybody actually assist them while the cut is happening. There is a heat where there is an assistant possible, but that's a different contest and level of speed altogether. All right, so Andreas and Denny coming out onto the stage. So you could see Andreas setting his saw actually a little bit closer to the edge to have less material binding on the saw through the cut. Denny utilizing the provided line from our judge. On his side, that would be Ruud Maya. Bart Janssen there now getting the protective sheath from Andreas Auernheimer position. Now the difference here is the more wood there is on the outside or stage side of the saw, the more it's going to bind on the saw. And you can see Andreas has opted for just slightly inside that line. Difference here is you have to be careful coming to the bottom of the cut, that you don't wedge out and leave a tab at the bottom that you have to cut off in order to make it a fair cut. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Two different styles of starting. Andreas Auernheimer with a good push cut to start things off with, and he gets into the flow, and like I said, he is a magician. Can he magic himself a good time here? Denny Fjellvedt working it, pushing hard, but getting caught up a little bit. And meanwhile, Andreas Auernheimer coming to the bottom of that cut. That's a really nice cut, and a 17.38 for personal best for Auernheimer. Denny Fjellvedt struggling on that last couple of hits, or last couple of draws, and that's a 22.12 for Denny Fjellvedt. So actually Denny a little bit slower by 4.74 seconds, and Auernheimer bested his own time by 4.74 seconds. Wow, what a difference there. So with adjustment, we're looking at a 17.16 personal best for Andreas and a 21.84 for Denny Fjellvedt, and Andreas has just set the time for the rest of the athletes today.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both girls are good.
All right, so Andreas Auernheimer with a personal best. He's going to be feeling real good about that. And both guys get good cuts. As far as our judges are concerned, you can see right there, Denny Fjellvedt put a little bit too much angle on that first push cut after he drew through. And again, on the draw, he did it again, and that just slowed him down too much. He's much quicker on that saw normally. And unfortunately this time, those angles hooked up that saw. It's such a bear to restart once it stops. And meanwhile, Andreas Auernheimer just kept that saw going nice and clean to the bottom, pushed through that final cut, and got himself a personal best. Well done, congratulations. Okay, key number 2, single buck, Thomas Hofbauer going up against Nils Müller. Nils with a real fast time in this discipline. Is he going to be the man to take over the top spot? He has got this thing absolutely locked down, and Thomas Hofbauer, he's around middle of the field as far as speed is concerned as he sets his cut in. And again, Nils Müller, based on experience, setting his saw a little bit forward of that blue marker line to give himself less binding material on the saw as he cuts through. Knowing his skill level, he'll have to keep that saw nice and straight and not pull a misery whip on us and break out.
Okay. Athletes ready.
The last part of the cut. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Nils Müller opting for a quick choppy start and then getting into the flow of long strokes, and you can see that thinner cookie really paying off for Nils Müller. Thomas Hofbauer looking good though today. He may well have a very fast cut, and Nils Müller's got a 14.98. Oh, Hofbauer a little bit of trouble there, but he's still got a 17.97 personal best. A great job by Hofbauer to improve his time. Nils Müller with a 14.98 puts him atop the leaderboard. Thomas Hofbauer, a personal best 17.97, slips him into third place, pushing Denny Fjellvedt into fourth there. Good job by both of these guys. Well cut.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So Thomas Hofbauer, the fantastic personal best right there, 17.76. Good year. Yeah, well done by him, and Nils Müller, of course, staying very consistent there. Only about 0.2 of a second off of his fastest time personal best. So, yeah, you can see he started off with 2-3 shortcuts to get the saw moving, and then just kept that thing rolling through. Not a lot of angle changes. Thomas was really solid through the bottom of his cut. There you can see Niesi going from tip to knuckles on his cuts. Great job. And Thomas right there at the bottom of his cut got a little bit of a hookup on the draw through, I believe it was. Let's see where it was right there. Yeah, and it was just that last little bit, and he could have gotten just a hair faster, but nevertheless, nice cut. Nice shirts, boys. Stefano Dwarka going up against Denny Martin here in this one. Denny Martin holding the national record of 12.11, so we know he's got the skills in the bag for this particular discipline. Last little adjustments. The guys that really know their equipment, that really know how they want to run this thing, know exactly on what tooth to set the saw when they get ready to go. Their foot positioning, always the same. Their preparation, always the same.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start. Look at that right away. Danny Martin getting into those long tip. That tip is disappearing inside the block. This is going to be a good cut for Danny Martin. He's got a thin block, and he's going to get through there real fast today. Another national record, 11.93. A fantastic cut for Danny Martin. And Stefano Dwarka gets a 16.52 personal best. Outstanding run for both of these guys. And you had to know Danny Martin was going to come from behind and absolutely rock and roll to try and get the points that he needs to move into the top of that overall leaderboard. And he has done that just now. What a run by Danny Martin. Fantastic. He gets a new national record, the one that he held before, absolutely obliterated. Good job.
Both cuts are good.
And it is official. Stefano Dwarka, 16.32 in third place. Nils Müller holds on to second place right now, and Danny Martin pushed everybody down a notch to 11.62, and you can see right away, and we'll look at that in the slow-mo as well. Danny Martin, he's not even opting for the shortcut. He gets right into the flow of that saw. Tip to knuckles, every hit, every time, every draw, every stroke, using the entire length of the saw, and that's where the efficiency of that saw comes into play. With a good operator, you got no problem cutting through there in the fastest time possible. And look at that run from Danny Martin. There it is, right to the bottom, no hesitation at all, and at an 11.62 new national record, and that is a very pleased Danny Martin to get himself back atop the leaderboard. Let's see if he can hold on to that. For the moment, he's got 43 points. Marcel Steinkemper has 32, so if Marcel can get a good run, let's see.
Rekord gesetzt. Kannst du bestätigen, oder?
Ja, super geil, oder?
So you just got a new national record. He says, yeah, super awesome, right?
Danny, da steht heute auch so ein bisschen was für dich auf dem Spiel. Das ist auch so ein bisschen, ich sage jetzt mal ganz positiv, so ein bisschen Druck, den du vielleicht verspürst. Oder wie gehst du damit um? Das ist gerade aus dir rausgeplatzt nach der Singlebug.
Naja, ich bin nicht so richtig gut in den Wettkampf reingestartet. Und man sieht ja hier, die Jungs sitzen mir alle im Nacken und wollen mir alle in den Arsch treten. Und natürlich ist der Druck da. Und ja, ich bin dabei und gebe mein Bestes.
So he's asked, you feel a little bit of pressure there. And his answer was, yeah, you know, I didn't start so good. The other guys are right on my back and trying to kick my butt. But, you know,
auf jeden Fall, ihr seid super.
Danke, Klingenthal, Danny Martin!
As always, Danny Martin confirms the audience here is fantastic. So you know Danny Martin's going to be working hard now that he's got a little bit of wind in his sails to try and get there. He's going to have to do a good job, and let's see how Marcel Steinkemper does up against Peter Bauer. These two guys can push each other, and perhaps we have a very quick time for Marcel Steinkemper. In this discipline, personal best for him is 13.94. If he could get even close to that, he'll be in second place and will take over top spot again in the leaderboard. Let's see. Peter Bauer, 13-14. Marcel Steinkemper, 13-9-4. I mean, how close are these two guys on the matchup? It's a fantastic look. That's experience for you right there. He just watched the saw go in and then said, stop, that's your count right there, you're good. And now Peter can reset. Marcel Steinkemper getting himself set. And very often we're seeing really different styles of cutters here. Some guys start with the tip of the saw really far out, like we're seeing here with Marcel. Some guys prefer to push through on their first cut. Everybody's a little bit different. Some guys have a straight flat cut. Some guys have some angle. It just depends on how you learned how to cut and what you're most comfortable with. Peter Bauer, he's a flat cut guy. Marcel, a little bit of angle. You could see it there.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1,
Not
go!
that much different between these two guys. So Marcel Steinkemper opting for the quick start, going for those very fast strokes. Peter Bauer looking for those long, efficient strokes. Marcel Steinkemper, he's just going all power in this one. Oh my God, he's cut out! He's got to set that back in place and cut that little tab off. That is a disaster for Marcel because his time was looking fantastic, but he's managed to get himself a 17.77. That should count. He went back in and cut that little tab off, but he was aggressive on those cuts, and that means they'll quickly check to make sure it's a complete cookie. I think he'll be safe. I think he'll be safe, but a DQ here would be absolute disaster for Marcel Steinkemper. Let's see. Oh my goodness, what a turn of events here for Marcel. He felt the pressure, he wanted to get that time, and he put a little bit too much into it.
Congratulations, both cuts are good.
All right, so that is our last heat in the single buck, and that means we're going to take a look at the single buck rankings, and we're also going to see where that puts us in the overall standings as well. And this is going to be how things change a little bit as well. But look at this. Peter Bauer, long, efficient strokes. Marcel Steinkemper just aggressively attacking that cut. And you can see what happens here. He's getting a little bit too hard into it and towards the bottom of his cut. You can see Peter Bauer putting everything he's got into it, but the strokes are long, efficient, clean. And right here at the bottom, he just put a little bit too much into it, and the saw bent. It stopped when it bent, and it pushed that block out. And right there, he's got to reposition that entire heavy saw and cut that little tab off in order for it to be a fair cut, for it to count, and for it not to be a DQ. And by virtue of that, he lost a ton of time. So, single buck, Danny Martin, clear. He wins that one by a long shot with a bullet for the national record, 11.62. Peter Bauer, a great time, 13.83. Niels Muller's third place there. Where is Steinkemper? He's in sixth place in single buck. What does that do to our overall standings? Well, Danny Martin takes over the top spot. Peter Bauer stays in second place, but Steinkemper moves down into third place from first, where he was after the first round. So now it's changed around, and now it's getting real exciting because in this last discipline, it is the springboard, which is the cat's meow, or I should say the cat's claw, depending on how you look at it. It is a very difficult discipline to become good at. It's a very difficult discipline to learn. There's so many things going on in this discipline as well. And let's not forget, folks, these guys aren't standing on one board, they're standing on two boards, about 2 meters above the ground, with a razor-sharp axe in their hand. So there is a lot going on in the springboard that has to go exactly right and run perfectly in order for you to have a good time. Now, what should be noted here is that the springboard is the deciding discipline for our athletes before we eliminate 2 more and go to the hot saw afterwards. And that means only 6 are going afterwards. Now, it's going to be a hard job, but before we get into the action here, let's take a look at the action from our newcomers that happened earlier on in the day this morning, and some of the stuff that we saw there with the up-and-coming athletes in timber sports. So Tim Anthofer, absolutely dominant in today's action during the German Newcomer Championship 2024. He stayed consistent throughout the entire round. Didn't win every discipline, but he was very, very close and among the top 2 to 3. And that was enough for him to take over the top spot on the podium and become your German newcomer champion for 2024. This will also be the last season that Tim Anthofer will be participating as a rookie because he turns 26 next year, and that means he will move up to the pro ranks, and so should it be. And there we see the top 3 on our podium from this afternoon, and we've got an interview with him right now.
Nicht nur der letztjährige Deutsche Meister, sondern auch der Titelverteidiger. Tim Anthofer, du hast es wieder gepackt. Deutscher Meister heißt du auch in diesem Jahr.
Tim, you've done it again. You've won the German Championships.
Ja, es war ein sehr durchwachsener Wettkampf. Nicht unbedingt super gestartet, aber ich konnte am Ende nochmal aufholen. Sehr guten
Yeah, it was a great great competition. It didn't really start very well, but managed to pull it together at the end. And I just enjoyed the day, and yeah.
Also Buschi würde dazu sagen, hinten kackt die Ente, das hast du dir zu Herzen genommen, hast hinten wirklich nochmal, ja, auch gezeigt, dass du Nervenstärke hast. Das war wirklich beim allerletzten Heat. Was macht das jetzt mit dir auch in Sachen Motivation für die nächste Station, und zwar die Pros?
So I won't translate the first part of that, but what motivates you to keep moving and get up towards the pros?
Bei der Singleback oder so muss ich einfach noch was machen, weil sonst wird das nichts. Aber dafür haben ja die Trainingscamps und dann gebe ich da noch mal ein bisschen mehr Gas.
So he's
und was sind noch so, ich sag mal, Goals in einer
needing to work a little bit more on it, but as far as the other parts, then he's going to go to the training camps and just give it as much gas as possible.
Ja, natürlich. Alle Titel, die man bekommen kann, bekommen. Ich habe jetzt dieses Jahr noch 2 Wettkämpfe im Ausland, versuche da natürlich nochmal alles zu geben, mich nochmal zu verbessern, vielleicht nochmal überall ein Personal Best zu bekommen, und das ist jetzt mein Ziel, wo ich dran arbeite.
So of course he wants to win a lot of titles, and he's already done 2 out of the country, and trying to get as many as possible to try and improve himself. So
ja,
yeah, that's where he's at. That's his goal.
Ein Trainingscamp eben, wo man eben auch sich austesten kann, kriegt man alles angestellt, Equipment und so weiter, und probiert es einfach mal aus und sieht dann, ob das was für einen ist oder nicht, und ob das dann wirklich nur einfach stumpf draufhacken ist oder ob da ein bisschen mehr hintersteckt.
Ja, und neben dem
training camps is the goal to try and test all the equipment, get the new stuff checked out, and see if everything's cutting the way it's supposed to cut, and that's the way it goes.
Und wir machen jetzt hier nochmal richtig Stimmung. Ich glaube,
we've got our audience there. Toby Witten doing a great job with the live audience on stage here. We thank him very much, and everybody seems to be enjoying themselves. Those people with parasols or umbrella, smart idea to keep that sun off your heads today. It is burning hot as we get ready on stage for our first springboard. All right, so among the things that our athletes are fighting for today in this competition and trying to get to the hot saw and finally be on that top hot spot of the podium is a chance to go to the World Championship in Toulouse in France in November. Now, if you want to get involved in the conversation, of course you can. There you see on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, #KissMyAxe. And as far as that's concerned, it's always fun to see people's reactions to the events on stage here and the kinds of things that they think are going on as the stage gets prepared in the background. And as I said, Toulouse in France is going to be where we're holding the World Championships this year. And that's part of the reason why we're here today in the German Championships, is to try and gain points and, of course, position so that one of our athletes will be able to represent Germany at the World Championships in Toulouse. And some of the things that we can expect to see in Toulouse is a lot of action. So let's take a look at what we can expect there in France. All right, so yeah, you can still get tickets to that event in Toulouse, France. It is going to be fantastic. The World Championships is always a different animal. You've got the Team World Championships, you've got the individual World Championships as well. And that is where we really see all that preparation throughout the remainder of the season come to fruition. Now, not everybody from each European country can participate. It is based on a point system, and that is also one of the reasons why our athletes are fighting so hard here today, is to try and be among the top of the European rankings so they do qualify for the World Championships. So you can see here the European rankings are based on underhand chop, stock saw, single buck, standing block chop, and springboard and hot saw, of course. And right now we see that Ferry Svan and Red McNoll, Koen Martens, Armin Kugler, Glenn Pendlington, Björn Sonsteby, Brent Strubel, and Andrea Rossi are among the top 8. But after today's action here in Germany, it may well be that we see one of those guys at the bottom positions drop out. Andrea Rossi is on that bubble. So if we can see a guy like Danny Martin gain enough points here today, he could possibly push one of the bottom athletes out and be able to be there and represent Germany for the World Championships.
Ja, da ist sie, die amtierende deutsche Meisterin und sogar Weltrekordhalterin an der Stocksaw, Alrun Übing. Alrun, das ist insgesamt ein Sportholzfäller-Innen-Wochenende, auch weil morgen geht es hier weiter. Was steht morgen an?
Morgen steht der internationale Frauenwettkampf an. Sowas wie eine inoffizielle Weltmeisterschaft. Und aus Neuseeland, Australien, Italien, Australien, Österreich, also Tschechien, überall, Schweden, Dänemark, ich weiß nicht, ich kriege sie gar nicht alle zusammen, sind Leute da und freue mich drauf, dass wir alle zusammen hier sind. Aus Kanada ist die Stephanie noch da und ein paar habe ich jetzt erst hier kennengelernt und es ist total cool, dass wir alle zusammenkommen und endlich mal zusammen einen Wettkampf machen können.
So really short, tomorrow is the International Women's Cup with women from around the world, and she's met a couple of the ladies so that she hasn't had a chance to meet in past, so she's really looking forward to the competition tomorrow.
Wettkämpfe gemacht und es waren sehr viele schöne Erfahrungen dabei und die Wettkämpfe sind natürlich auch eine super Vorbereitung auf einen wichtigen Wettkampf. Morgen sind wir 14 Teilnehmerinnen und das ist richtig cool, wenn man so viele Teilnehmer hat. Das macht einfach Spaß.
So a lot of preparation on a very important competition here with 14 participants tomorrow as well. So it's really important for us to be able to compete and do well out there.
Also diese Gemeinschaft, das bedeutet mir schon sehr viel. Auch dieses Reisen, Land und Leute kennenlernen, Sprache und Kultur und dieses Gemeinsamkeitsgefühl. Das ist einfach toll. Man sieht sich, natürlich ist man Konkurrent, aber man verlebt doch eine schöne gemeinsame Zeit und das ist das, was zählt. Und ich lebe das einfach und ich fahre natürlich zum Wettkampf, fahre nach Hause, gehe arbeiten und fahre wieder zum Wettkampf und es ist einfach cool.
So the togetherness of this particular event is very important. Traveling, the culture, learning new people and meeting new people and being able to travel together. And of course, they're all competitors against each other, but at the end, it's just the togetherness and makes it really worth it.
Die Beste wird morgen gewinnen.
Wir freuen uns drauf. Alrun Übing, danke dir.
All right, Alrun just finishing off with saying that tomorrow is going to be an interesting and great competition, and the best will win. So we'll have big hopes for them. And hey, we got a world champ in the house. Look at that.
Yeah, 4 disciplines. You know, I think Denny Maher's probably going to be hard to beat. You know, you come out and cut a real good single buck there. So we all know his favourite discipline is the hot saw. So I think he's going to be ready to go for the hot saw. I think he'll be hard to beat. I did, but Denny brought one and Marcel brought one, so they're gone. I think Marcel used him in that center block before, so it was a good axe too. I've got a question for you. How come you're not chopping this year?
I have an accident.
Accident? Yeah. What? You're all good for next year?
Yeah, for
next year.
Oh, for the World Championships, I'm ready.
Oh, yep.
Also counting the team.
Yep.
Next year will be starting.
Ah.
Alrighty, so we're moving on to the next discipline, and that is springboard.
Springboard simulates the traditional way of felling trees, climbing up over thick roots. First, notches known as pockets are chopped into the log. 2 springboards are then anchored into these pockets. The athlete then climbs up to chop through a 27-centimeter thick block of wood in the fastest time possible.
Okay, there's our start list, and I should apologize. I created a world champion out of Mitch Argent, but it is true. He is a world champion with Team Australia and the Chopperoos, just not the individual world champion. But it was nice to have him there in the interview with Guido and Christoph as we see our stage finally ready. It does take a very long time to set up the stage for these standing or these springboards, otherwise known as trees. And our first heat, Andreas Auernhammer going up against Denny Fieldworth. Now, I mentioned earlier on here how difficult this discipline is to become good at. You have to cut a good pocket. You have to set a board, get on that board, cut a second good pocket, set that board, and then the real work starts. It's up at the top on cutting that top block. All this 2 meters up above the ground with a very sharp instrument in your hand. So everything has to come together just perfectly. And yeah, let's see if these guys can get this locked and loaded. Here is the last opportunity for our athletes to get
ready.
Points and make it to
your
the top
timber.
6. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right, that's a high 5-hit pocket for Auernhammer and a 6-hit pocket for Denny, and both of them moving up to set their second pockets. Denny Fielwert with a 6-hit second pocket, and that's 6 hits and some housekeeping for Andreas Auenhammer, and both of them up on the top blocks now as they start to work up top to try and get that block cut from both sides. Now they're going to cut through on that first side for a little bit deeper than you would see on a normal standing block, and both of these boards are starting to sag a little bit, so they really want to make sure those teeth are biting in. Both of them are about dead even with the floor, which is good. That's like quite okay, but you want to have your feet at the back of the board in order to really push through the power, and otherwise you're using mostly your shoulders and your upper body to cut, and that's very tiring. And also with a hard block on top, you're not getting as much work done with less energy, so it's really, really hard work. So right now you can see both these guys, Andreas Auenhammer, Denny Fielwert, at about the 115 mark. Denny Fielwert on the second side of his block now. Feels like he could get through there. Trying to work it. Oh, it's wiggling and waggling a little bit. There it goes! Denny Fielwert, 123.27. A little bit slower than his best time. Andreas Auenhammer, this is not his discipline as he goes straight cut, and a little bit more housekeeping on the front there, trying to get it as deep as possible. And now he'll switch to that, what I call awkward angle. And his board, his top board is sagging badly as it's starting to let loose a little bit. Hopefully it stays on there. From this angle, it'll look more than it really is from real life, but he's got to get it done in 1:54.05. That is a personal best for Andreas Auenhammer. Great job to keep it under 2 minutes. Fantastic run. Love to see those best times fall, and obviously these guys are always looking to improve on those times and try and get it faster and faster and faster. So Denny Fielwert with 1:23.08.
Leighton, both cuts are good.
And Andreas Auenhammer with a 1:53.76. Good job by both of these guys. And our crew will come out to quickly clean up or remove the springboards from these two gentlemen. And that is a ton of work up top. So let's take a look at setting these pockets. So you can see the guidelines that are there, but the guidelines are really just a suggestion in some cases. Here's the board from Fielwert as he gets up there on that first board. Now he's got to pull the axe out and set that second board. They both had first pockets that were about 5-6 hits. The second pockets were around 7 hits, I believe. I tried to count as best I could, but not a math guy. Denny Fielwert feeling confident with that. A little piece hanging there that could cause problems for him. And on the top here, it's really about trying to get your footing on that board so you can really step onto the back of the board. Now here that angle looks a little bit rough, but actually it wasn't that bad. And here's that last driver from Denny. You just got to be real careful that you're not twisting that axe as you cut through, because you might get a DQ for wrenching. But both guys got good cuts, so we're safe and moving on to the next heat, heat number 2, with Thomas Hofbauer and Nils Müller. So Thomas Hofbauer setting up there, and we're looking at Nils Müller, Thomas Hofbauer, both around the same time for the springboard, 1:31.96 and 1:33.77 respectively. Thomas Hofbauer with the quicker time, and obviously these guys are always looking to improve on their time. And I think the biggest improvements on your time are getting those pockets set and getting up into position as quickly as possible. Obviously, you need to practice a ton to make sure those pockets are done exactly right.
Athletes ready.
Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
That's a 4-hit pocket for Thomas Hofbauer. Oh, and that's a nice board right there. A bit of a deep angle, so might be a little bit ungainly for him. Nils Müller up on his board after about 6-7 hits, I think. I didn't get a count on his. I only saw Nils Müller, or Thomas Hofbauer, excuse me. But Thomas Hofbauer with another board set very quickly as he gingerly checks it. He's got a bit of sag, but it looks not too bad, and he feels confident enough to put his back foot close to the back end of the board, and that bodes well for him. So now he's got to do the work on the top there. Niels Müller working to get that second board in place, but he seems to be struggling a little bit. Did he do enough house cleaning in there? It seems like he's okay with it as he gets up onto that second board. Is he confident with the position of his board? Hofbauer right now looking pretty good, but he's not putting as much power into those drivers as I think he probably feels he should, or I feel he should at least. But now he seems to be getting into it. The confidence seems to be going. He's driving a little bit faster, but maybe with not as much power. And look how high up he is. That is massively high in the air. And again, you don't want to mess around when you're up that high. Coming to the 100 or 115 mark now as he switches to the awkward angle on the other side. And meanwhile, Niels Müller still working on that first side of his block. Thomas Hofbauer, here we go. He's going to get through there. Is he going to improve on his record? Yes, he is. A 1:26.76, and he beats his own record by a good 3.068 seconds. And so Thomas Hofbauer walks away with a personal best here. Niels Müller will not do that. He's still working on that first side, struggling a little bit with that board, sagging some now. That means he's walking forward on the board, which means he's not using as much power as he could in the hits. And he's all upper body at this point and going straight in because you can see the fatigue starting to set in. So for Niels Müller, it's a real tough slog right now as he's getting to the 2-minute mark. He's only got 30 more seconds to finish things up there as he is working hard still on the first side. He's got to get to that second side and cut through for this time to count and him not be DQ'd for exceeding the time limit. So he has to switch soon. He's got 10 seconds left. Will he be able to do it? He's got to get through on that second side there. I don't think he's going to make it, though. There's just too much material in the way. And that is going to be a DQ for time exceeded. They're going to let him cut that off at the top, but it was oh so close. It was just about 3-4 seconds too long for Niels Müller, unfortunately, and he gets a DQ. But Thomas Hofbauer with a great job at personal best 1:26.48. I'm telling you, man, this is a difficult discipline to work with. And you really need to be on point with everything. Now, Thomas Hofbauer did a great job setting those pockets. I think he had 2 4-hit pockets, or at the very least, he had a 4-hit and a 5-hit. And that is really what you want to do. You want to get those quick pockets, get that board in place, and then get up there and start working as quickly as you can on that top block.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we have to queue on stand 4 for exceeding the time limit. However, stand 2 is good.
All right, so we're going to take a look back at the slow-mos there, and you can see how Thomas Hofbauer set that block on top here. Watch this. That's 2, that's 3, and 1 more, that's 4, and then he sets that board in place. Not a lot of space for that toe or that tooth in the board, but it worked for him as he gets up on to the board and starts to set that second pocket. And I do believe that second pocket was also 4, maybe 5 hits. And this was a great job by Thomas to get up there. And he took a quick look back at the board to make sure he could place his back foot out there. And you can see everything is wiggling up there. You've got so much movement up there. It's a confidence killer if you just don't feel like you're set to go. And here it was a couple of sets for Niels Müller, but really for Thomas it was just getting up there. And I think he started to feel confident about 3/4 of the way into the front cut, and then started to hit with a little bit more power, a little bit more pace, and then switched over to the backside. And here our last 2 drivers to get that block off the top. It looks like he was almost there and decided, oh no, I need 1 more, and he repositioned his hands. And we are going to hear from Thomas Hofbauer now, who is down on stage with Toby Witten.
Ja, wenn einer genau weiß, worauf es ankommt beim Springboard, dann ist das Thomas Hofbauer. Worauf kommt es denn nun an bei dieser Königsdisziplin?
Ja, ganz wichtig sind auf jeden Fall die Pockets. Also je weniger Schläge man da braucht, desto früher ist man um.
Super important in the pockets. The fewer hits you need, the better it is.
Und jetzt war es gerade so, offizielle, neue, bestätigte, persönliche Bestzeit. Ich habe trotzdem so ein kleines Kopfschütteln vernommen. Ich mache jetzt mal die Analyse. Du bist einfach heiß wie Frittenfett, oder?
Ja, genau. Also ich habe das zweite Pocket ein bisschen zu hoch angesetzt. Habe dadurch ein bisschen einen schlechteren Winkel gehabt. Somit
So
wir
he set
natürlich
that
noch
second
wesentlich besser
pocket a
in
little
Zeit
bit
bringen
too
werden.
high,
Hoffen wir
so
dann
he
ein
had a
bisschen
bad angle
verlängert,
for the
aber
top block,
ist
and
ganz
that meant
okay.
that
Aber
he
trotzdem auch nach
couldn't cut
deinem
as
dafür
cleanly
halt
as he
noch
wanted
alles
to on the
drin
top
heute bei der
block.
Deutschen Meisterschaft, oder?
Ja, ich hoffe, dass noch ein bisschen was geht, weil war ein schwieriger Start, aber ich habe gut aufgeholt und ich freue mich, wenn es weitergeht.
Wir sagen danke, viel
So it was a
Erfolg.
tough
Thomas
start,
Hoffbauer.
but he's happy that he's got the time he's got, and he hopes that he's got enough to get into the top 6. So Thomas Hoffbauer, a great time, 126.48, just behind Denny Vielwert with a 123.08, and we still have 2 more heats to go. The stage being reset by our crew down there, and again, a lot of things happening to reset that stage, so we're going to need to give them time. The main stands will stay in position, and the only thing that will change are the blocks on top as they'll be rebored or re-drilled into place. All right, so the guy's talking a little bit about how this discipline really is going to be the design and the decider who's going to get into those top spots. And before we do and give these guys a chance to get continued, let's take a look at how the wood that they're using here is produced in premium wood.
STIHL Timbersports is an international extreme sports competition series featuring 6 disciplines: 3 chopping and 3 sawing. We have a premier competition, we need premier wood. The biggest challenges that I face as part of my role is to ensure that our competitions are supplied with the highest quality wood.
Each individual tree is examined for its conformation before processing. We need to make it fair for all athletes. So we are selecting different sections of the trees to use for each of our specific disciplines.
Once the trees are felled, extracted and transported to our facilities, we measure, mark and then cut the wood into sized blocks. We then peel the blocks ready for competition. After careful selection, the blocks then leave our yard and are distributed internationally to our STIHL Timbersports competitions.
All right, it looks like they're pretty close to being finished in the background behind our 2 German moderators there as we take a look down onto the stage. The last block's being drilled and secured into the top spot. What's important to note here is that the athletes that are competing on each of these stands must drill their own blocks that have been drawn into the block top so that they cannot say anything about somebody drilling and positioning their blocks incorrectly for them. They can place the block, they can drill it into place, they're given the correct amount of screws. Everybody has the same screws, and they set them up at the top there. All right, so it looks like we are very close to being finished on the stage there. Before we go to the stage, we're going to take a quick look at commercial break from one of our sponsors so that we can say thank you for all their support, because without them, we wouldn't be here. All right, springboard heat number 3 of 4, and that is now with Stefan Odvarka going up against Denny Martin. So Denny Martin, a personal best 104.03. Stefan Odvarka, personal best 127.38. Now, I do know that Denny Martin doesn't love this discipline. I also do know that he has been working his butt off in this discipline to make sure that he absolutely has everything that he needs to be able to be successful here, and he does need to be successful here if he wants to defend his title. All right, there's the whistle.
Okay.
That's our warning for start. Here we go.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Five-hit pocket for Denny Martin. Stefano Dwarka's got 6. Denny Martin's onto that second pocket set now. That's already 8 hits for Denny Martin on that second pocket. Stefano Dwarka, he's at 7 hits, so he's catching up for Denny Martin. Denny Martin sets that second board and moves up Stefano Dwarka on his second board now. Both of the boards looking very good. Stefano Dwarka looking very positive on the backside of his board with his foot. Denny Martin, he's stepped in a little bit off that backside, but Denny Martin's got a lot of power in that upper body, so Stefano Dwarka has got to work off those hips and that back leg, which he seems to be doing very well with his springboard. Denny Martin's got some big chips falling as he tries to do a bit of house cleaning there and keeps working on that top block. The time is running away for these guys. Just closing in on a minute here. Denny Martin looking very good, like he might get a good time here today as he is deep through on that first side. Stefano Dwarka not too far behind. Denny Martin now looking very clean on the second side as he goes to that awkward angle. He's going to get it. It's going to go down in 1:12.02 for Denny Martin. Great job by the German man. And that means that he will take over the top spot in springboard. And Stefano Dwarka moves on to the second side of his block now as he is trying to break through and drop that thing off the top. He wants to try and beat 127. He's not going to do that today as he is getting past the 135 mark here. And might have left a little bit too much on that first side as he's trying to find a line through there. Getting close now, 145 coming up. So he's still got time to get through there. He should be able to do it, but he's chosen a really, really difficult route to get through there, 152.82. And that puts him in 4th place currently in springboard. Denny Martin and Denny Vielwerth in 1 and 2. Thomas Hofbauer in 3. Stefano Dwarka in 4 with a readjustment of time at 152.49. So really good first set of pockets for Denny Martin and for Stefano Dwarka. The top pockets took a little bit longer for both of the guys. Stefan was a little bit faster on the top pocket.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both guns are good.
Nevertheless, Denny Martin top spot right now in springboard, and that leaves one more heat to go to determine who is going to be eliminated. So right now, Andreas Auenhammer and Niels Müller are in those 2 positions to get eliminated. Peter Bauer and Denny Vielwerth have yet to go, so it looks like we are definitely going to lose Andreas Auenhammer and Niels Müller as we take a look at some of the slow-mos here with Peter Bauer and Marcel Steinkemper yet to do their springboard. And again, like I said, Denny Martin has been working hard to try and improve his speed on springboard, but there's so many things that have to go exactly right for the springboard to go fast. And that is quick pockets and a very fast top block. And that board from Dwarka, wow, that looks scary. That was some subdued celebration by Denny Martin. He knows that he can do better. He knows he wants to do better on that discipline. And as I said, an incredibly difficult discipline to become good at. All right, last minute setups on stage for Peter Bauer and Marcel Steinkemper. Couple of big boys, and very often the bigger the boy, the more difficult the springboard is, because you have to be on point with setting those pockets and positioning your board. If that board even has a chance of slipping out and you're a bigger boy, that means that you've got to work harder to make sure it gets in there solidly. So, whistle blast coming up here as we get ready for our final springboard heat.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Four hits for Peter Bauer. Gets the board in place. 6 hits for Marcel Steinkemper. Gets his board in place. This bottom board is not nearly as important as that top board. Five hits for Peter. A little bit of house cleaning there. Marcel Steinkemper, that's a 6-hit pocket on board number 2. Gets a board place. Peter Bauer, a little bit of a ginger test on the board, and he's got it in place. Marcel Steinkemper on top of his board as well, and they both start roughly at the same time on that top board, or on that top block. 45 seconds has now come and gone for both of these guys on the top block. Could we see some good times for both of them here? Both boards are starting to sag ever so slightly, and both of the guys are stepping in closer to the middle end of the board than at the end. Peter Bauer looking very good as he is deep on his first side. I don't see the angle for Steinkemper's first side, but I don't think Peter Bauer is going to be long before he switches. And no, he switches over to his second side now, just passing the 1 minute 10 second mark. Steinkemper still on his first side, wants to go deeper to make sure that he has the least amount of work to do on the second side. He switches over to his second side. Meanwhile, Peter Bauer 1:20.23, and that's a good position for him in second place, holding on to second overall. And Steinkemper, he's got third overall right now as that block dropped at 1:27.21. Great job by both of these guys to have a fantastic finish here. Denny Martin still holding on to the top spot, but Peter Bauer and Marcel Steinkemper definitely still in the mix, not that far off pace. Good job. So Denny Martin still with the fastest time, 1:11.74. Peter Bauer the second fastest time with 1:19.98. Denny Fieldbert's really good time for him with 1:23.08, and Marcel Steinkemper down a couple of notches in fifth place with a 1:27.21.
Congratulations, both cuts are good.
So both cuts are good for these guys, and a couple of big power hitters doing a great job up top. And again, it comes down to getting those pockets set very quickly, feeling confident on that top board, and then just going for it. You can see here, Peter Bauer and Marcel Steinkemper both hitting 5-hit pockets for the bottom. Marcel a little bit more on that top, and Peter Bauer had a 5-hit pocket on the top as well, I believe, if I can recall correctly. And this is where it was just a little bit of house cleaning, and then he got his board in place and started to work up top. And here we see those last couple of drivers from Peter Bauer. You can see how accurate those hits are. Such a great job from such a great timber sports athlete and absolute legend in the sport. And meanwhile, this man here, he's going to be a legend in time, but he needs that time, and it will come. So springboard, final results. Denny Martin did a great job here, both in the single buck and the springboard, to win both of these events. So that's put him in good position to go to his favorite discipline, and that's the hot saw. We will lose 2 athletes from the overall list here. Let's take a look at that, how that's changed. So Marcel Steinkemper moves back up into third place, just behind Peter Bauer and Denny Martin in first place. Stefano Dwarka, Thomas Hofbauer, and Nils Müller will be going on to the hot saw. We will unfortunately lose Denny Fieldwert and Andreas Auenhammer, as they are down at the bottom of the list in positions 7 and 8. And so we take a look at how that now changes as we move towards our third round. Second round, so you can see here in single buck now, in springboard, the positioning and the changes here in the overall. And that means those top 6, Denny Martin, Peter Bauer, Marcel Steinkemper, Stefano Dwarka, Thomas Hofbauer, and Nils Müller will move on to round 3 and the hot saw. All right, so that being said, the stage is cleaned up quickly for our discipline with the highly anticipated motorhead machines. If you like noise, if you like fuel injected craziness, then this is absolutely your discipline. The power saws known as hot saws are coming up. Absolutely massive, powerful saws with chain speeds up to 200 kilometers per hour, if not faster. They cut through these blocks like butter. The problem is controlling these beasts to cut 3 cookies in an allotted 15 centimeter space in the fastest time possible. We'll get a chance to take a look at these machines shortly, and we are going to take a look now at why they call this the make or break discipline.
This is the one and only discipline where the athletes are alone on stage.
Yeah, probably the most important event, but yeah, also the most frustrating.
These saws are so incredibly powerful and dangerous.
Usually the hot saw is the slider. Hot saw, hot saw.
I can't describe to you when we're out there under pressure.
Starts well, first disc looks solid, cut is good.
You know, you're always ending the competition on a hot saw, so you know where you're going to be at when you finish. So you're either at a real big high or just is what it is.
Nice clean cut, easy, relaxed.
Hot saw is a love-hate for me. I honestly don't get that much enjoyment out of it. I'm not a motorhead. I swallow my pills and eat it.
Once the competition comes, anything can happen. Oh no, a false start by Sterling Hart. What a disaster.
Yeah, it was a disappointment for me. Happens though, it's part of competing.
I saw there was 3 good discs there, but then they let that nose come right up underneath the crossover line.
Fortunately, a disqualification.
It all relies on the hot saw.
It went good up until the hot saw. I disqualified, I cut across the line. Yeah, there was a bit of interference, I feel like, in a big pressure situation, you know.
What are you taking away from this event?
Oh, probably last place. I don't know, headache. Yeah, shit hot saw. What else do you want?
If you have bad luck or if you did wrong, it's part. Just your experience.
Oh my goodness. What an absolute disaster. The chain came off.
I was not disappointed because everybody see that I can be with the guys in front.
It was a bit of a disaster, so it was just operator error, and I didn't perform as well as I would have liked to.
Nice safe cut.
Oh no! Oh no!
Never prepared for that situation, but luckily it started and I got 3 wheels and now I'm the world champion.
Yeah, it's the make or break event, you know.
I think you love it and you hate it.
Das ist eigentlich immer ein geiles Ding. Ich schneide immer sehr sicher.
What was going through your head when that gun fired? 4.62 seconds.
That's pretty hard to believe right there.
Let's try to make 3 good cuts and no disqualification.
The hot saw is where it's all won, so that's the best event.
Well, you can hear in the background the hot saw is being warmed up, and as you saw from that piece about the maker or breaker, the hot saw is sometimes the determining factor for these athletes, and you can see is Toby Witten in the background there with the headphones on to protect his ears, and these saws are, like you heard during that clip, incredibly dangerous and powerful.
Auch erleben werden. Thomas Hofbauer, Nils Müller.
This is not going to be a quiet discipline either. And now, normally in the past, we've had one single hot saw Sawyer on stage at a time, but for this particular time we'll, and for the last little while, we've had two athletes on stage. Final preparations for these very finicky saws are underway here. Now, Danny Martin always is very, very strong with this discipline. He feels good in this discipline. He feels solid in this discipline. This is a discipline where he has held the world record. Adam Lethko at the moment does hold the fastest cut in the world record at 4.62 seconds. And Danny Martin is obviously going to be focusing highly on getting the fastest time possible here today in this discipline, just so that he can take away the championship title again and 5-feet it, but also he would like to have that world record back. You know, once you have that world record, you definitely want to have it back. You don't want to give that thing away. And you could see here that Danny doing those last-minute preparations on that chain. He's got a big, powerful motor there. I've actually had that saw in my hand before. It is heavy, and you can imagine if that heavy 35-kilogram saw is running, the saw is spinning, the motor's spinning, there's centrifugal force at play, and then you've got to control that saw and get 3 cookies on the deck without making a mistake. There's just a ton of stuff going on here, and you always have the risk that the chain could come off or something could happen. You get a false start. You can hear here just how loud these machines are. Sounds like a motorcycle, doesn't it? Yeah, that's basically what you're dealing with there. 252 stroke. Unbelievable. You can see Guido just taking a look down behind the scenes there where the guys are doing the warm-ups on the saws. And there is noise aplenty for us here. And for all you gas heads out there, this is absolutely your discipline. The first heat on stage will be Niels Müller going up against Hofbauer, Thomas Hofbauer. This does go in reverse order of the previous standings. So we'll see Marcel Steinkemper, Peter Bauer, and Danny Martin as the last 3 athletes out. And Marcel Steinkemper will be battling against Stefano Dwarka, Peter Bauer against Danny Martin. And we're going to take a look at now the official tool and discipline of the hot saw.
These custom, handmade race-tuned machines are built for maximum power and precision and to cut the wood as fast as possible in a competition. They are built with a 60 to 80 horsepower single-cylinder 2-stroke engine, often taken from a snowmobile or high-powered motorbike. The hot saw can weigh up to 30 kilograms and its chain rotates at over 250 kilometers an hour. The cost of a competition hot saw used in STIHL Timbersports is upward of 6,000 euros. Hot saw. For the hot saw, power saws are called into action and the athletes have a space of 15 centimeters to cut 3 complete discs off a 46 centimeter thick wooden block. Jumping the start or cutting over the line will result in a disqualification.
So as mentioned, Niels Müller going up against Thomas Hofbauer, Stefano Dwarka against Marcel Steinkemper, then Peter Bauer against Danny Martin. Danny Martin is definitely his discipline. It's his discipline to win, it's his discipline to lose, and it's his competition at this point to lose. He is in the lead with 59 points, but Peter Bauer is only 3 points back. So if Danny Martin gets anything less than a 3rd place and Peter Bauer manages to get 2nd or 1st, he's got this one in the bag. Marcel Steinkemper in 3rd place also has an opportunity, seeing as 18 points are up for grab. Marcel Steinkemper with 46 points could take over the top spot if Danny Martin or Peter Bauer, either of them have major problems with their saw. So I'm not going to say it's all to play for, but there are definitely some positions that can be changed in the top 3, perhaps even the top 4, when we look at the overall standings here, because between Stefano Dwarka and Danny Martin is Yeah, not that much. 42, 46, 56, and 59. So realistically speaking, it's among the top 3 mathematically. And yeah, it's about now seeing who's going to take on that 3rd position in the overall standings here today. Niels Müller ready to go. All these guys had their saws warmed up, prepped, and checked earlier on. Just waiting for Thomas Hofbauer to come out on stage. And again, this doesn't come down to the power of the operator. Of course, that plays a role in this particular situation simply because of the weight and the moving parts of the saw. You need to have power, strength, and control. But you also need to know your machine. And you've only got 15 centimeters to cut 3 good cookies. So small mistakes create big problems. It's like driving down a German highway at 200 kilometers per hour as opposed to 90 kilometers per hour. You move the wheel a little bit at 200 kilometers an hour, you get big reactions in the car compared to 90 kilometers per hour. It's the same idea with these saws. Small mistakes create big problems. So you want to be as accurate and clean as possible.
Warm up your saw.
And of course, our cameraman on stage absolutely putting their lives at risk during this event here as the guys get to warm up their saw. Now the difference here between warming the saws up for the hot saw and warming the saws up for the stock saw is that the stock saw is a warm or hot start, and this is a, let's call it a cold start, yeah? Le Mans start. Run to the saw, start it up. In this case, they're not running to it, but they are having to start the saw with that pull. And sometimes that pull causes problems to where the saw doesn't start. And that is where we have our problems with these finicky machines. With high-performance machines like this, sometimes the smallest things can cause issue, all right? Now we've got just under 20 seconds for these guys to finish their final preparations, re-wrap that starter cord, and get ready to go. Niels Müller on the left in the gray, Thomas Hofbauer on the right in the blue.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Hofbauer with a good start. Niels Müller also looking good. Hofbauer's got a nice 3rd cookie looking. And both of them are down. Niels Müller with a 6.69. Hofbauer with a personal best 7.64. And I remember a few years ago when the 7.64 was an absolute record. And looks like both guys have good cuts there on their hot saw. So that is going to bode well for both of them. Niels Müller jumps up to 53 points after hot saw. Thomas Hofbauer up to 52. So still a little bit back of Peter Bauer and Denny Martin.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
All right, personal best for Thomas Hofbauer. Love to see that. Niels Müller, what a character, giving the crowd a bow. And we will take these big beasts off the deck and get the deck cleaned up and ready. And we'll take a quick look at the replay here. Look at that machine kick for Hofbauer as he puts it into the wood. Great control there by Niels Müller as well. He had to make that 2nd cookie real nice and thin in order to give himself some room for the 3rd cookie. You don't want to make a mistake of cutting over the line here, especially when you've got a good one. And look at that kick in. Oh my God, the power. It's insane. A little bit of a floating transition, but that 2nd cookie was nice, and he got real close to the line on the 3rd cookie, but he didn't cut over the line. He kept everything nice and clean, and he got himself a personal best. Great job. All right, coming up next, we have Stefan Odvarka going up against Marcel Steinkemper. Definitely not Marcel's discipline. You could see that from the time. Tail of the tape has Odvarka with a definite advantage here, 5.98. Not really far off world record status here, or national record. Meanwhile, Steinkemper struggling with a 10 and change time on hot saw. Maybe, just maybe, he can improve that here today, which would really be great for him because he's had a fantastic run today. The opening 3 disciplines of round 1 were absolutely Marcel's. Absolutely. He ran the show up there. It was a great job by Marcel Steinkemper. He put himself in a great position. Then he just lost it a little bit with the single buck with that cutout and having to reset the saw. And obviously everybody running a little bit slower on that springboard, which was a bit of a deciding factor for a couple of these guys. So this could be a redemption cut for Marcel Steinkemper if he can really get a good cut in and stay under 10 seconds. Let's see if he can pull it off today.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saw.
Oh, a couple of beasts. A couple of beasts on stage. Fantastic. So warming up these saws is really all about getting the motor, and in particular that spark plug hot
30 seconds.
So that when you do pull that drawstring or that starter cord, that everything starts up and is nice and warm, but not overheated. You don't want that thing overheated. So it's really, it's a play of being precise about how you warm up the saw, not overdoing it, but getting it to a point where you're ready to go. And these guys are almost all wearing spiked shoes as well, because you need that grip on that floor with that saw in your hand. It's insane. Here we go.
Stand
Heat
to
number
your
2,
timber.
Stefano Dwarka, Marcel Steinkemper.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, Marcel Steinkemper fighting with it, but he's got 3 on the deck. 7, 6, 8. Stefano Dwarka 6-8-2. Boy, Steinkemper was fighting with it. Holy moly. It did not want him to stand still. That saw was pulling and pushing him like crazy. And when Steinkemper can manage to get that stability for his cuts, he is going to be a threat to all the other guys. If you look at the cut from Marcel Steinkemper, a 7.56 personal best, a great job.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Well, I've never seen anybody struggle with the saw like that before, and that is a testament to the absolute power of these saws. They are beasts. Let's take a look back at that slow-mo here. Watch what happens. Steinkemper trying to find his footing on that first cut. It pulls him in. I want to get back to Steinkemper's slow-mo here. Dwarka looks very solid here. Second cut, nice and thin. Paused a little bit in the middle of the cut. Third cut came close to the line at the top, but he had some space and he was clean with it. Shut down everything. Meanwhile, you can see Steinkemper struggling to find his footing as that saw just wants to take him where it wants to go. And the last cut's through. It's a great job by Steinkemper to get that 7.56. Let's watch this again. Replacing his foot, trying to find the footing. There's cut number 2, pushing into the saw. It wants to fight him back, and then it's pulling him in. It's trying to control him. He needs to control that saw, and he did it at the end. That was a great job by Steinkemper to really fight through that cut with a 7.56, so good job. All right, so our last heat of the day. Danny Martin, national record, 4.84. That is an insanely fast time. It is nuts. Peter Bauer, the personal best, 5.59. Both of these guys insanely close. Huh? World record, let's not forget, is 4.62. So Danny Martin, if he can get that 4.84, pick up the pace a little bit, you know, he'll be excited. Absolutely. Captain Obvious over here. Again, this is the last heat of the day. Will it be Peter Bauer on top, or will Danny Martin manage to hold off the push from Peter Bauer? I mean, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's 3 points difference between the guys. Peter Bauer, 56, he hasn't cut yet. Stefano Dvorka just cut, he's got 57. Marcel Steinkemper just cut, he's got 58. Danny Martin's about to cut, he's got 59 points. Danny Martin just needs to have a clean cut here. He doesn't need to race this, but you know he's going to be pushing, which risks possible DQ for a mistake or something. Or a very slow time for whatever reason. So he's got to make the decision here of whether or not he wants to cut as fast as possible and go for a world record, which is very likely that he's going to try this. Then he risks losing that top spot to Peter Bauer, or will he just cut clean and confident like we know he can do in order to be able to have the points that he needs in order to win this? And that's really all he needs to do is clean cut. So last bit of
30
his
seconds.
starter spool connects the safety cord. You can see those spiked shoes from Danny Martin. Peter Bauer getting ready. This is our last cut of the day, ladies and gentlemen. This one is for all the marbles. It's an either go for it situation or cut safe situation for both of these guys. Who is going to win it? Danny Martin or Peter Bauer? It's only 3 points difference between them right now.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Well, Peter Bauer struggling with his saw today as well. Danny Martin is 6.46, and that is going to be it. Fastest time for Danny Martin, and that is going to mean he's got the win today. And barring anything as far as a DQ or something like that with an incomplete cookie, he is going to be your German champion for the 5th time in a row. Judges double checking each block, and you can see Peter Bauer, yeah, that saw was pulling him all right. Peter Bauer had the same problem that Marcel Steinkemper had with his saw. It was just pulling and pushing him all over the place. But what a couple of absolute warriors out there today.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
And that means Danny Martin will take first place in stock saw as well as first place in the overall standings. I don't think there's any arguing that. Danny Martin was 77 points. Peter Bauer was 71 points. That's still unofficial until we see the last bits of our rankings. But come on, let's be honest here. There's no two ways about it. Danny Martin is your champion for sure. All right, so there you could see, and even Danny Martin was struggling with his back foot positioning to make sure that he had stability. He replaced and reset a couple of times there. He hung a little bit on that upcut. We've seen that transition much cleaner by Danny Martin. Oh my God, look how close it was to that top line as he came through that cut. Jesus, that could have been close. Peter Bauer, nice start for him. He didn't even hover. He went straight into the cut, had a bit of angle, left himself some space. Nice thin cookie on that upcut, got that nose a little bit lost inside. Thick one for the last one, but he had space and he was clean with it and pretty happy with that. So he'll take the silver medal today with a very, very nice effort. But Danny Martin knew it right away. He had 3 cookies on the deck, and that means he wins the hot saw here. Danny Martin in first place, Peter Bauer in second, Nils Müller in third place, Stefano Dvorka fourth, Marcel Steinkemper fifth in the hot saw with a personal best, and Thomas Hofbauer sixth in the hot saw with a personal best. Good to see those personal bests go, especially for Marcel. Final results, there we see it. Danny Martin on top with 77 points, Peter Bauer 6 points back in second place, and Marcel Steinkemper in third place on the podium with the bronze with 52 points. So well done, and that is your podium today. Great job by all the guys, and we're going to go down and hear from Danny Martin right now.
Da ist er, Danny Martin, Deutscher Meister 2024 und damit jetzt auch 5-facher Deutscher Meister. Keine große Frage, einfach nur, was fühlst du gerade?
Ja, ich bin überwältigt. Ich hatte sehr viel Druck gehabt. Ich habe 2 Wettkämpfe dieses Jahr abgeliefert, die ja, sehr viel Druck erzeugt haben heute. Und auch jetzt an der Hot Saw gesehen, ich war 3 Jahre ungeschlagen in der Hotsaw, weltgefürchtet, zweimal auf der Weltmeisterschaft gewonnen, die Disziplin. Und jetzt auch wieder ein bisschen gestruggelt und ja, am letzten Schnitt zielen müssen.
So short and sweet, Danny Martin overwhelmed by today's action. He was struggling in the first 3 disciplines where he was getting a lot of attack from behind. He was always solid in the hot saw. He won the hot saw at World Championships, and you know, he really felt under pressure today. And yeah, his win is really important. It's the 5th time for him, so there's a lot of emotions.
Und jetzt hinter mir steht eine nagelneue Säge, die noch nie auf dem Wettkampf war, aber ich habe ein sehr gutes Gefühl gehabt. An der Säge hat es jetzt nicht gelegen.
Yeah, so we have a brand new saw for Danny Martin there. Nagelneue is meaning it's brand spanking new. So he had a good feeling and he used it in this competition, and so it's got its first legs under him in the competition, and it ran really well. So 22, 23, 24, so 22, 23, 24. 3 times in a row for him, so that is a hat trick and 5 times total. And we're going to see another star added to Danny Martin's jersey there today. So great job by Danny Martin winning it. Now he is the 5-time German champion, and a great job by him to come from, let's call it really what it was. He came from behind today. He was still in an okay position after round 1, but he really put the gas down in round 2 with the single buck and the springboard to make a massive difference, to get himself into a position where he only needed to cut safe in the hot saw, and he did cut safe. He didn't cut his fastest today, not by a long shot. He's about 2 seconds off his fastest by that mark, but the fact of the matter is that he cut safe and he did a good job. And now we have a 5-time German champion, and with that, I believe that he'll have enough points in the European standings to be able to represent Germany at the World Championships in November in Toulouse, France. So looking forward to seeing him there, hopefully. I don't think there's any question that he will be there, as he had some excellent times today. Yeah, he struggled at the beginning, but like I mentioned early on in the show, he's been here before, he's been there before, he knows what he needs to do. He didn't panic, he didn't lose his composure. He did exactly what he needed to do in order to catch up with Marcel Steinkemper, who basically ruled the roost for the first 3 disciplines. And then one small mistake on the single buck by Marcel, and that was that. Danny had a great time and took over the show after that. And Marcel, had he not tabbed out on that single buck, it might have been a different story. It might have been closer when it came down to the hot saw. And we saw that Marcel had a great hot saw cut, personal best, and improved his personal best by nearly 3 seconds. So that was a great job. So now we're going to go down to the stage for the awards ceremony.
So, wir sind wieder live, nicht nur hier in Klingenthal, sondern auch im Livestream. Und vor der Siegerehrung für die DM gibt es noch einen Sonderpreis, und zwar Best Sawman und Best X-Man presented by Bild. Und Sonderpreis, der wird natürlich
All right, so before we get to our main award ceremony, we're going to hand over an award for the Best Sawman or Sawyer and the Best X-Man, and that is going to be...
Ja, und Best Sawman, Best X-Man
presented over by
das
Michael
ist
Lear.
heute ein Sportler geworden. Wir sagen herzlichen Glückwunsch, Danny Martin!
Leader Marketing for Build Deutschland, I believe. No, excuse me, Marketing STIHL Deutschland.
Ja, auch das hast du dir noch gesichert, Danny. Da gibt es jetzt ordentlich Preise, noch vor der eigentlichen DM-Siegerehrung. Christine Radke, Managerin STIHL Timbersports Deutschland, ist auch wieder mit dabei. Und da gibt es gleich 2 Emmys, 1,72.
Oh,
ja, wie soll er das alles tragen?
Look how cute these little saws are.
Danny Martin, Best Sawman, Best X-Man presented by Bild.
Wow. Danny Martin getting Best Sawman and Best X-Man. So Best Sawyer, Best X-Man all together in one. So great job for Danny Martin. What a day for him today. So he gets a triple dose of prizes as he'll leave the stage with a plethora of toys to play with in the near future. And now we're going to get to our award ceremony for our top 3.
Schau gerade mal in die Startlöcher.
All right, so we're going to bring all of our athletes back up on stage. Hopefully everybody's ready to go and introduce you once again to these fantastic athletes who battled it out today. So in 10th place, we're going to bring up on stage Stefan Graf. By virtue of one DQ, he missed out on going to the next round. That DQ was in the stock saw, where he cut out. The cookie was just a little bit too thin and wasn't quite there. So for Stefan Graf, it's unfortunate, but you know, it was only a mistake on his part that he made, and you know, he could be there. 9th place goes to Marcus Dengler. He had a great stock saw, but he wasn't super strong in the underhand or standing block chop. And those are the two disciplines that really made the difference for him. Number 8 goes to Andreas Auenhammer, one of the nicest guys in the mix. Underhand chop was excellent for him. Stock saw was quite solid as well. Standing block chop, not so much, and the springboard also not so much. Single buck, he was excellent as well, dropping a personal best there. Number 7 goes to Danny Vielwerts. The young man who is definitely on his way up. He's got skills. Underhand chop, he was 3rd place. He struggled in the stock saw a little bit on the standing block chop. And for the single buck, he had a problem there, only getting 2 points out of that one. But the springboard, he was solid in the 3rd place. And then we're going to go up to Thomas Hofbauer in 6th place. Underhand chop wasn't so solid for him, but stock saw was very good. So was the standing block chop. Single buck struggled a little bit, and springboard, he was excellent. And then the hot saw we saw got himself a personal best, but wasn't quite where he needed to be in the rankings there. So number 5 goes to Nils Müller. What a guy. I mean, always upbeat, always positive, always smiling. He had a great underhand chop, stock saw, middle of the pack, standing block, middle of the pack, single buck. He was excellent, and he got a disqualification for overtime in the springboards and in the hot saw. A solid 12 points in 4th place there, the 3rd place, And then Stefan Odvarka. I mean, what can you say about this guy? He was solid and consistent throughout the day. Good stock saw, good single buck, solid hot saw. Got himself also. So here we go. Our 3rd place is going to Marcel Steinkemper. He got himself a personal best in the hot saw. That last discipline, he struggled on the single buck. That was his downfall really in this competition. He won underhand, he won standing block chop, he struggled in single buck. In springboard, he was middle of the pack, and in the hot saw, he got 5th place and a personal best. So he can definitely take that to the bank, and he is on the podium today in the bronze medal position. A great job by Marcel Steinkemper.
Plus den Pokal. Damit sind wir.
All right, so there you see 3rd place Marcel Steinkemper, but now we're going on to 2nd place, a legend in German steel timber sports, Peter Bauer. Underhand chop, he was middle of the pack. Stock saw, he was very good. Standing block, he was very good. Single buck, he was excellent. Springboard, he was excellent. Hot saw, he was excellent, and by that, he's got himself a silver medal, 2nd place here on the podium today. Fantastic job for one of the living legends, the granddaddy caddy of German timber sports, Peter Bauer. And finally, our 5-time German champion. Unbelievable. The guy is unbeatable, it seems. Danny Martin. He struggled to start things off in the day. Underhand chop, he was okay. Middle of the pack. Stock saw, same, which is normally a better discipline for him. Standing block, he was really good. Single buck, though, he was the best, and springboard, he was the best, and hot saw, he was the best, and he has taken it down in round 2 and 3. He kept his cool, he kept his calm, he had his fans behind him, and he is now the 5-time German champion. big congratulations go to Danny Martin with an absolutely phenomenal finish on the day.
Wunderschönen Pokal prangert. Das sind sie. Die 10-Athleten, die Platzierten. Und natürlich
the bottles come up, and you can see immediately
für die Sektdusche.
the rest of the guys run away.
Der Champagner ist es.
Oh, fantastic. Marcel Steinkemper seems to have gotten the cheat code as he bangs that thing on the ground and goes for the big spray. A great job, and a big congratulations go out to Marcel Steinkemper, Peter Bauer, and Danny Martin. Your top 3 on the podium today as Danny Martin sends appreciations and thank yous out to the audience on hand.
In der Sparkasse Vogtland Arena. Ich glaube, die Stimmung ist auch ganz oben. Noch richtig, richtig gut. Ich gebe noch einmal ab an den Livestream, an Christoph Lang, unseren Sportexperten und natürlich auch an The Voice, an Guido Hüsken und euch, liebes Publikum, möchte ich
All right, so back up to our studio, Guido and Christoph, who has obviously done a fantastic job throughout the day in the beaming sunshine. Big congratulations to them for being able to get through there. And again, there is that hashtag that I love so much, Kiss My Axe. All right, so let's take a look now at the European ranking and how Germany fits into that overall ranking and where Danny Martin may or may not be sitting where we head towards the World Championship in Toulouse. So there you go, Danny Martin, by virtue of fantastic performances here today, sitting in 4th place. So really safe for the World Championships in November. We still do have the French and Swiss championships coming up in the month of September. So things could change there, but I don't think they're going to change drastically for Danny Martin, who we will most definitely be seeing at the World Championships. So that is all she wrote for today, and what a day it has been. We have had our German Pro Championship, which we just saw. We had the Newcomer Championship earlier on in the day, and tomorrow we have our International Women's Cup, which is basically a Women's World Championship. So please do join us tomorrow. There's going to be lots of action still to come on Sunday. Don't go away. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Troy Manning, signing off from beautiful Klingenthal. Ciao.